Welcome to Plat Chat Overwatch, episode 261. We got two lovely guests for today's episode. Starting off, the man of the people. It's none other than AVRL. Welcome back on the show, AVRL. How are you doing?
Thank you. I wasn't sure where we were going with that. I was like, the man of the people.
Yeah, it's definitely you. It's definitely you.
I think you are. You're the man of the chatters.
You have your pulse on the nation.
It depends what people. I think very
depends what people.
Oh, because clearly not the 6v6 people. They're not friendly to me at all. So it really depends what
the people are anti 6v6. So
there's always going to be doubters though. So it's like it's whatever.
I think
most the majority. People. Yeah, the man of the majority
of enough people. I'm happy. There's the people that exist. I'm here for you. I'm happy for you. Thank you.
You're the Bolshevik of the Overwatch community.
I don't get the reference, but I'm sure if anyone gets the reference, please do explain in the comments. I'd appreciate it. Yeah.
He just said something so offensive. Can't believe he just called me that.
I've been canceled already. We're a minute in. I've been canceled. I'll expect the tweet longer in like 3 hours.
We need more drama. If he generates clicks, I'm grateful, Kenobi. So thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, if you're listening on audio and you wasn't quite sure what voice that you heard, that was none other than Chinese Overwatch historian Kenobi. How's it going?
Good. How are you guys? I'm excited to be back for another Plat Chat. We did a draft last time.
Circle and the arrow. Yeah, I mean, it's been basically a year, right, since we did the collegiate draft.
We did the collegiate draft last year. Yeah.
That was a fun episode, yeah. I like doing this.
Give the audience like 20 seconds, be like, is it A? And B, it's just named like 4 different people, with Kenobi's name being in one of them. And the audio listeners can just take some time to multiple choice guess who the guest is.
Oh.
What does the winner get?
They just get to feel good about themselves for the day.
Okay.
that's worth a lot these days. With the way the world is going, feeling good about yourself, that's great. Yeah. No, this was a lovely episode here as well.
226, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Well, I need to introduce the guests because a couple of weeks back we did that large 6v6 episode with 6 people on. And I just said, these people need no introduction. and a lot of people in the comments were like, I'm listening on audio. I have no idea who's on the call. Who are you talking to? So, 260 episodes, we're still learning. We're still improving the show. So, you learn something new every day. What have you been up to, Kenobi?
I did Face It League, which I'm bearing the lead of it.
That's why you're here.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. Did a little Face It League, so that was really fun seeing kind of the new crop of esports talent coming up from. It was very like Contenders-esque, basically what they did. So very excited to see how it's going to turn out with the promotion relegation system now. Because there were some teams that I think there was one in NA where it was like. What was it? Supernova shouldn't even have been there, and then they got knocked down. So now they're going to be going up to that promotion tournament. But we can talk about that a little later. But yeah, I think it's interesting to see kind of how the path to pro, quote unquote, has evolved a little bit, and it's through Face It League. I guess it's kind of now the majority of the option.
Yeah. I think the format is in a good place right now. So yeah, that happens on Sunday, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, of course, we have to thank our friends over at Factor Meals for sponsoring today's show. We do appreciate it. Thank you very much. This time, it's code Overwatch50 off. Here we go. Make this your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. Eating well has never been this easy. Just heat up and enjoy, giving you more time to do what you want. Get outside instead of prepping and cooking indoors. Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat. Perfect for any active lifestyle with 45 weekly menu options. 45 options. I mean, if you're like, I don't like this specific thing, then 45 options, you're bound to love something here. You can pick gourmet meals that fit with your goals. Choose from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and more. Factor powers your day with satisfying breakfast, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks and desserts. It's easy to savor more this spring. Factor meals pack in the flavor with none of the fuss. Get started at factormeals.com/Overwatch50 off and use code Overwatch50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code Overwatch50 off at factormeals.com/Overwatch50 off for 50% plus off plus free shipping. Kenobi, you said before we started recording that you were in a bit of a ranked game there. You've been playing a lot of ranked these days?
I've been playing some. I played Overwatch. I played the Goats Overwatch, and it was probably the most fun Overwatch I've because I played with 6 people.
Yeah.
I think the best
That makes sense.
I think the best option would have been like if the one thing I didn't like was that there was it was not restricted to only Goats heroes, because I think that was kind of like a little bit annoying when I'm like playing against like Bastion and stuff, and I want to play Goats mirror. Like, and there were teams that would like eventually, say, hey, yeah, we'll mirror Goats with you. But if as like a 6-person, like just playing Goats with like my friends, it was probably some of the most fun I've had in a very long time playing Overwatch.
See, you know what's not fun, Kenobi?
What?
Prepping ingredients,
True.
meals. That's why you should use factormeals.com. Use code Overwatch50 off for 15% off your first box, so that you can spend more time playing Goats with all your friends and actually lock in 3-3 and not get like, Doomfist and 3 DPS heroes and, 1 Zenyatta support. There you go. Use Factor Meals. Thank you so much for sponsoring today's episode. Now, before we get into Face It Masters and all the beautiful work that Kenobi was up to and what we got coming up on Sunday, we started this new segment, Kenobi, where we copied what Valorant does, and each week, before the start of every show, they ask the members, the YouTube members who also support the show. Thank you so much to our YouTube members for supporting the show. You enabled this show to happen. And we asked them a question. Now, today, we got a spicy one. We got a hot question from one of our longtime supporters, from Matthew McCloskey, who asks, I think it's fairly obvious that the best teams of Korea OWCS are the best teams ever assembled, at least with Rollock. I think we all can agree with that. Falcons, Crazy Raccoon, the best teams ever assembled. Where would you rank the best OWCS teams from NA and EMEA if those teams would play in OWL? In my opinion, they would probably beat Eternal and Eternal only. They would be very evenly matched with 2023 Valiant, which I think is an absurd take.
Is 2023 Valiant the collegiate Valiant or the Chinese Valiant?
No. That 2022 was Chinese, and 2023 was like with Seeker.
Okay. COVID fucked up my entire.
Yeah, exactly.
2021 was also Chinese. 2 years of Chinese.
Yeah.
I forgot to put the Wikipedia page in the doc, Solomon. But if we could pull up the 2023 Overwatch League
there's no
regular
way.
season
it was
standings.
like NOS. It was like Seeker. It was like CJ. I think on that Valiant team. I'm trying to remember exactly what that team was. Was Liar on that team?
Yeah, Lyra was on that team because he had that one matchup against Gladiators. Remember they beat Gladiators?
That's true, where he carried.
Yeah. So this is why I think it's insane. I think it's insane if you think about SSG, if you think about Nightmare, Virtus Pro, etc., and you're like, where do these teams fit into the 2023 standings? I think only being competitive with Valiant is like an insane take. I think Atlanta Reign, Florida Mayhem, Houston Outlaws, the top 3 there, I think those are probably like really strong teams, Like, I don't think maybe you can compete with those. But like, if you were to slot them in here, where would you guys rank those teams? Now, there's tons of different factors here, of course. Like, are you talking about current day, or are you talking about, going back?
Prime.
It's a silly question, but we're having fun with it. So take it a bit loosely here. Where do you think it makes sense when you consider the roster? So, Sugar Free Seeker, Kellan.
I got a big one out the gate. I think, honestly, around the 2 Canadian teams is not a bad shout. And the reason why is because when you look at those Canadian teams between Toronto and Vancouver, it really is like a Western mix with a couple of good Koreans in them, which is basically where the top NAEU teams were anyway. And I'm assuming we're allowed to, when we say top OWCS teams, are we allowed to, say, I don't know, Toronto Defiant or Toronto Ultra from last year? Because they had Merit and someone on that team. So they'd easily be up there. But if we're talking about this year, then even this year, you're talking about teams where, the SSGs and Liquid maybe is underperforming a little bit, but the VPs and Nightmares and stuff, you're talking about teams that mostly filled with top NA players with a couple of Korean imports in there. Maybe not in the case of Nightmare, but still. I don't see why they wouldn't be probably around the same level as our, kind of NA majority type of teams in the last season of Overwatch League with a couple of Koreans and then like Vancouver's and the Toronto's of that year.
Yeah, I think when I look at this, I'm pretty much with AVRL. I think I'd probably put them like right behind the Defiant, and like based on how it went for the Shock that year, I'd even would be like I could put them. I think Shock would be below them just because like the team cohesion was just straight up not there for Shock with how like bad it was that year, and like if that's a factor. But like when I look at like on paper, like this SSG roster and like that alone, like I mean, I think Sugar Free was on Vancouver this year in 2023, and they were like 5th or something like that. And he's I think like when I just look on straightly on paper, like with what this Space Station Gaming team is, yeah, it's like easily like way better than the Valiant team. It's not even a question.
Way better.
Like I wouldn't. I think it is incredibly it's like it's got to be like the most owl rose tinted glasses to be like. Because like as much as I love Crawley and how good Crawley was, like you know, in contenders and stuff like that, you're not beating Kellen. I'm not taking a Kellen versus Crawley matchup. I'm sorry, it's just not happening. Like I would much rather probably have the Space Station Gaming roster. I probably even would rather have the Liquid roster, like and the Nightmare roster. Like I'd probably have those 3 rosters over the Valiant roster like easily. And I'm not like I wouldn't even have to think about it.
I actually agree with Avril in this scenario. So if you're kind of lost here, we need to jog your memory. So the 2 Canadian teams, they're 5th and 6th. It was Toronto Defiant and Vancouver Titans, of course. So Vancouver Titans is the team with Sugar Free and Heesang. Punk was the tank with Faith and Crimson in the backline. And then Toronto Defiant was this like Hydron, Kalush, mixed. They had Ultraviolet there as well, Opener. And I think, so again, contextualizing this entire question, like you'd have to consider that was like the peak at the time, right? This you can't just like retroactively apply today's level of performances, because like a 2025 team would beat a 2023 team. Like that's not even a conversation, you know, because you always get better, improve at the game. But if you think about the 2023 teams at their peak, right? And you know, kind of, you know, in a weird thinking way, just trying to fit this team into that. I kind of agree with you, because you know, you look at Atlanta Reign, like Lip, Stalker, Dongyak, Chio Fielders, like it's not on that level, but I think 5th to 6th is kind of like where I'd slot in like an SSG kind of team. Yeah. Florida Mayhem was really good that
they were a solid middle of the pack team probably now, I think.
Above the average, yeah. I'd say like top 4 or 5. Yeah. SSG, I'd say
just
probably.
Contextually as well, I think Overwatch League has a bit of a, I don't know how this happens, but it has a little bit of a weird situation where it seems to kind of mess players up sometimes and mess teams up. I don't know if it's the pressure. I don't know if it's like how many games you have to play. It could be that, like, for the most part, most of the teams, almost all the teams are in a team house, whereas that's like not really true anymore for a lot of teams. You know, maybe different expectations, maybe just how the system works. But like, Shock in 2023 is a perfect example. Because if you were to, again, on paper, I'm still going to, I'll always defend that at the start of 2023 when we did our rankings and all that on Plat Chat, like, yeah, we were well within our rights to put Shock at the top there after what they did like the year before and how strong their roster was going to 2023. Proven then by the fact that you go to 2024, 2025 OWCS and plays like Jimbin and Max that everyone clowned on in 2023. It's like, oh, look how overrated these players are. Yeah, and then they just end up being the best players in the world like a year later. It was because of whatever happened on the Shock that ruined them, not because they weren't good players. So my point is that for whatever reason, you know, there's just this thing that happens in Overwatch League sometimes where like a really strong player or a team enters and they just like completely underperform, and it's like you can't really tell why. It's very difficult, and so it's just hard to say what happens with like the VPs and SSGs of the world and etc. The nightmares. If you shove them into Overwatch League as a system, how do they handle all of that? I think if we did like an on paper ranking, it's just like different, because then like teams like the Shock wouldn't be that low. You'd like have them much higher. The on paper ranking, and the on paper ranking, you'd put like the SSGs and the VPs and stuff like around the Canadian teams, like I said. But then like in reality, it's like, how do they actually handle the Overwatch League? Because it just, you know, it messes players up somehow. And I don't know how.
I love the idea that we were early. We were 1 year early, because we put San Francisco Shock #1 going into 2023. And that was a team with proper Heesang, of course. That didn't work out. Heesang went to Vancouver Titans mid-season. John Bin Max, the tank line. And then backline was what? Vindam and Finn. and then they brought in Luke Amino
yes.
and Renko there as well. And they didn't qualify for playoffs, did they? They got
No, they missed out.
No, yeah.
Yeah, they were literally. Oh my god, now everything's broken on my end. But yeah, they were like 8th or something, which is like insane when you consider the skill,
the talent that was on that team. Yeah.
Yeah, the talent. So that was just.
It goes to show. It goes to show how like your team can just get messed up internally somehow, and then you just fail because you have an MVP on that team. You have what was then going to be the world's best tank the following year in Jimbin on that team.
Yeah.
And okay, the backline's pretty weak. I think even now you could argue Finn is like not the best of the tier 1 supports, and Vindime is, we all discovered after his time on Seoul Dynasty, was just like the most overrated support ever. So possibly losing Violet and having a weak support line impacted the team a lot. People will say some bullshit about like proper toxicity that was never proven. What, because he said one thing in match chat as a joke, people will take that giga seriously, which is ridiculous.
Oh, that Midtown is gonna flip forever.
Yeah, it's so what, because everyone else who typed in match chat ever throughout the entire year, and everyone else typed, it's like, oh, all 2 thumbs up, all good. Proper types 1 time and he's toxic. Apparently, it's ridiculous. What a real ridiculous statement people make.
We were hunting for like what is happening, what's wrong with the shock, and we're just looking for stuff. It was also weirdly in this part of Proper's arc where like people were tired of us overhyping Proper, so they tried to find like fault in him as a player to like.
So they went after him personally because of what talent and personalities were saying. It's so lame. It's just like, bro, it's like, why are you going after the player personally for that? Like, you didn't do anything. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
it was the subreddit was a nightmare that day. I mean, it was just all of just like the worst, like, you know, speculation about like, oh, it's a toxic environment. Is he the reason that like the team is falling apart? They have to trade everyone, and it's like
they had a crime and they just wanted to hang him for it. They were just looking for the crime to hang somebody for. I don't know, like that. The whole you have to remember, like that year as well, they had a late start to the year. They got to NA late because of, I believe, NRG that year, where like the team house, the Shock had previously were taken up by the NRG Valorant team, and they had like getting new accommodation. They were late to the year, then they lost in Pro-Am because they were like late and didn't have scrims, all this kind of bullshit.
They also they were I think Finn was playing from like his house. I think for the majority of that, actually the team was like not even in NA whatsoever for when
and so like they were that's right, they played the Pro-Am on Ping, didn't they? They played the Pro-Am on Ping, and they got to San Francisco and they had to do this like university. Were they in a university dorm? I don't even know how that works. Some like San Francisco
they had a partnership. Yeah, they had a partnership with like a university in San Francisco, and they were there.
So it wasn't even like a proper team house. It was like some weird setup, right? It was like some strange thing happening.
I think I have vague memories of this. Yeah, there were like photos, and people were like, "What is happening?"
So it was like it was a whole strange situation in the year. And then you heard as well from Albert at the start of the year. He was like, "Yeah, they were beating us in scrims, or they were like at least even with us in scrims." Start of the year in Korea, right? When Mayhem, the eventual winners of the Overwatch League, right? Start of the year in scrims, were on par or losing the Shock. It's like they were meant to be a good team, and then the whole fuckery of the logistics and moving to NA, and all these like Jimbin 17-year-old going to NA for the first time, living in a college dorm or whatever the situation was, having weird practice, and everything just got messed up, and the whole team blew up, and their backline was weak, maybe coaching issues, I don't know, maybe a whole bunch of some crap in background. All of this to say, this is the longest segment in the world now that we've gone through all of this. All this to say, the top NA and EU teams now shove them into the Overwatch League system. Who knows what happens? Because you have to deal with all of this extraneous stuff, all of this third-party stuff. When I say third-party, I mean like things not related to literally playing your game and scrimming. Things related to like where are you gonna live? What's your like structure looking like? How you have to like this team house stuff and the Overwatch League pressure and all this other stuff. It just ruins people somehow, you know. Mag's probably washed by now, but remember Mag came in super hyped up. He was meant to be really good. He joins Washington, and that team fucked him pretty hard as well. I don't know, possibly ends up having this decay beef and all this crap. It's like, it's just things happen, man. Things happen in the Overwatch League that you just can't explain.
Washington had didn't Washington have Ben best play support or something that last season?
Yeah, he played Ana for I think a map. I remember vaguely.
And the Teru Prey moment. Was that? No, that was when Ben Best came for tank. Never mind.
That was it was a wild season. It was a wild season to end us there. To end things, yeah. It was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. We could obviously rank like Virtus Pro and AVRL and stuff, but I think we did the question justice. So if you would like your question answered, make sure you become a member, become a Plat Chat member, support the show, and I usually post like a little YouTube post, and you can go there and ask your question, and maybe we'll feature your question in the next episode, which comes out early next week, where we're gonna preview Champions Clash. But let's get into some Overwatch news. So before we get to Face It Masters, I'm sorry, I'm still dragging things out. There was one piece of news, a roster addition in WhoRU joins GenG, and this comes after the fact that Topdragon is currently on Wave's roster for Soop Cup. And so WhoRU, a new addition to GenG here. And I guess the question is, like, does WhoRU still have it? Like, how excited are you about this move? Do you think this is a great ad for GenG going to stage 2?
It depends on the crusty crack pipe. How that
it feels like a bit of a crack pipe move, but at the same time, it's WhoRU.
I feel like I never want to like doubt WhoRU. I feel like I've just like there's always been those moments where I'm like, yeah, dude, he doesn't have that fastball anymore, and then he'll play good, and I'm just like, I don't know, until he shows me that he's like really just out of it. Like I think when you can get someone who has this much history, has this much pedigree, I think it's always good. And I think Avral's right. The crusty crack pipe probably does affect what the ceiling of this move is going to be.
Got Exodial too, so like those two combined might make a big difference. Because I think GenG lacked a dedicated hit scan, and like I don't know. I was willing to give. I'm not saying someone was a problem, but I was willing to give Topdragon some benefit of the doubt and say, like, I've just seen him play, but I've seen Topdragon's potential in his like actual peak, and it was just so far away from that. Maybe he was severely underperforming. He did deserve to get dropped for that. There was some questionable stuff he was doing on fire, but I mean
that OC montage.
Yeah, I saw the OC montage, and I was like, I've been watching this dude since he was in like first Fabulous Fighter in Chinese Kentucky. He didn't look anything like that. Like he was a demon. Like I thought he was like, and the fact that I like watched that montage and I was like, this isn't the same player that I.
It looked like it was a different guy. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe WhoRU steps in and is better than that. WhoRU is definitely in a situation where like. He was commenting in the interview. I was there watching it in the Asia playoff, saying, this is kind of like a last ride situation. He was like, what do you mean? Are you retiring, brother? He's like getting kind of old as far as Overwatch League pros go because he's been around for so long now.
Yeah, old.
Fupa's apparently at 24, so there you go. That's the age limit for Overwatch. And so he's probably at the kind of the end phases of his career. I thought he was going to be gone after that last stage with Wei, but getting opportunity to play with GenG, he's probably like, yeah, fuck it, I'll take this opportunity. They're a partner team. Will probably get financially better off whatever he's getting out of GenG than he was on Wei, given that Wei was just like a normie team and not a partner team or anything like that, and they didn't get any sponsors. They were trying to get sponsors for a while. Much like the entire OWCS, actually. And so, yeah, he's on this team now, and hopefully it looks good for them. He's still always going to be mostly the GenG guy. I think what will really be the big difference maker here is if he can prove that on this team, he can sort of make it on those other heroes. We know he can play some other heroes. I've seen his Tracer. It's definitely competitive. I don't think it's top tier, but it's competitive. He can play Echo in the Fire as well, and so we'll just see how that kind of goes, because as long as he's got that going for him and he looks good on those heroes, and whatever happened to Topdragon doesn't happen to this guy, because by the way, like what I said for like teams, sometimes definitely the Overwatch League, players you expect to do well, sometimes you just like completely fumble and just you don't know what happens. I don't know what happened to Topdragon. I don't know how that guy went from being like a really good player to just like doing what he did on this team.
Yeah,
I hope it wasn't the Crusty effect. I don't know what it is.
I really do have a soft spot for Topdragon, because I think especially even last year, like I think Topdragon and Dongen were so exciting on a one-man army. Like that became one of the teams I rooted for because I thought they were so much fun to watch. And Topdragon was, their star player, like their carry, and had so many great performances. And so, yeah, I looked a little bit lost on GenG, but I still have very high hopes for Topdragon. So we'll get more to Topdragon later. But here we go. Here's GenG's roster going into stage 2 then, where they've added Exodial and WhoRU. So a bit of a new Damage duo there. Still got Mag as a tank player. And we'll kind of see how they do. But yeah, WhoRU? One of the most decorated Overwatch players ever. I mean, you got the pre-out stuff. And then, being part of Shanghai Dragons, winning a title there, part of Florida Mayhem. Didn't play in the playoffs, but still, they won 2023 as well. So WhoRU is always there. He's a good player to have on the roster because usually WhoRU ends up winning, or the team he's on ends up winning. So, I mean, there's a lot of first places there.
Hang on. What GenG need to do is put WhoRU on the bench, and then they're definitely going to win.
See?
Oh,
here we go.
That's the success. That's how you actually
Albert
win.
called it like the emergency, just the emergency stuff, just in case, like break glass. When it was like maybe we're gonna have GenG meta this year, and then they're just like, let's just sign WhoRU just in case, and then it's like, oh, the boost from the bench.
Yeah, it was a smart move. I think wasn't the original one was like WhoReg, like you have WhoReg on the bench, and there's been a few of those players.
If this was a management game, WhoRU would be one of those players with a passive effect that boosts your team's capability from the bench somehow. This player ends up on bench, your team improves by 30%. Just for no reason.
Oh boy. Yeah, it'll be exciting to see how GenG does. Obviously a bit disappointing for them to not qualify for Champions Clash, but oh well. We got a couple of months to go before we get there. All right, let's talk about Face It Masters. Obviously on Sunday, we're going to have our first promotion and relegation kind of tournament day, where the bottom two teams from North America and Europe, they take on the top two teams from Face It Masters North America and EMEA. So it'll be a long day with lots of matches to determine which two teams get promoted to stage 2. And this past weekend, Kenobi and Bolskong and Solomon we're all putting on this show, putting on this broadcast where they crowned the eventual winners of Face It Masters. So let's start off with EMEA here. Quick Esports, they beat Frosttail Esport. What was kind of like first impressions here, Kenobi? Like how was the day overall? Anyone that stood out?
It was
what was it like being back casting?
Yeah, it was super interesting. The biggest thing for me was that both of the teams that won the entire tournament, they won through lower bracket. They like 3-0'd their lower bracket, and then they 4-1 their grand final. So how convincing it was for both those teams going through lower bracket was really interesting to me, especially because they like mirrored on both sides, and it felt like there was just one team who was just kind of better than everyone else that shouldn't even have been in the lower bracket. For EMEA to start things off, that Quick Esports roster is very good. Reinforce, when I tell you, this Willis kid, this Swedish tank, dude, this kid's nice with it, man. He's so good. I like everything that I saw him play, and me and Bolskunk were talking about it. We're like, this is like the new EMEA tank. Like if we're kind of going with this idea that if we're going with this idea that like this is a path to pro and like we need, we want to see the stars rise and we want to see them kind of come out of nowhere. I think Willis like turned 17 this year because he couldn't play last year. He's like he was 16 and didn't
turned 17 last year.
Yeah, didn't meet the age requirement. So like this is the first time that he could play on this roster like competitively because of the age requirement, and he's nice with it, man. Like he's really freaking good. Like I would be very surprised if this team, like not even like if Quick Esports doesn't do well and get into promotion and relegation, I think that's like fine. But I think like if we're like looking into like the future, like Willis could easily be poached here. I think there's no doubt in my mind that if you're looking for like one of the better tanks that we have coming out of EMEA, it's Willis for sure. Because everything I saw him play, the Hazard was fantastic. There was some Winston that
was really mostly good. Hazard, right?
Yeah, it was mostly Hazard, but like the Winston looked good. The way that he was able to like hold space and just like make the enemy team not able to play the game on Hazard, like just I think phenomenal the way he was playing, and I'm very excited to see the future of that player in particular.
You're making me excited. I'm trying to tone back the Swedishness here. I really am.
You had him at Sweden.
I had you at Swedish. I knew I had you at Swedish.
Dude, if you were there with me when I first found out that Willis was Swedish, like my my eyes lit up and I was like, whoa!
Yeah, you're experiencing something for the first time. You're like, oh, it's the new.
When I see the Swedish flag, it's just like a chemical reaction in my brain. I'm like, whoa! Shot of dopamine just. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, I Quick Esports. I mean, they looked really good. Another favorite player of mine was Dip, who
Dip was good.
Had some great moments on the Torb, on the GenG. the Twitter feed was really happy about Dip, because Dip certainly did provide a lot of like different GenG highlights and stuff like that. Yeah. So do you think Dip could be another one of those players to like look out for?
I think Dip would also be good. I think Dip, the funny thing about Dip is he was the only French guy on Quick Esports, and the other team, Frosttail, was French, and like they would BM him in match chat the entire time.
Really?
So like, yeah, so I'd like, because I mean, I assume it's just friendly rivalry because of the French, but like I asked him at the end, I was like, how do you feel to be the last Frenchman standing? And he's like, well, we got to win relegation soon, so. But yeah, I think Dip is also another player where it was like, I think him and Willis, the kind of duo there. I mean, to be fair to everyone on Quick Esports though, I think there wasn't really a spot where I was like, oh, there's like a really big weakness for them going into, I think going into the promotion. More so than anything, I think like the team looked like very cohesive. I think actually going through lower bracket probably helped them just because it like gives you that mental edge when you're going into grand finals. Like we already played like a 3-0 team in the lower bracket. We beat them very easily. We know that we can beat Frosttail Esports because we beat them in the regular season. Like I think that them going through lower bracket actually helped them pretty significantly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Sidra as well. Is that how you say it? Sidra?
Yeah,
had some good Cassidy highlights as well. I did notice the aggressive dead eyes at times where did get
Do you know the
caught.
funny thing about Zydra? Zydra actually is not their starter. Zydra is a sub who started in their lower bracket in the upper bracket semifinal, and because Snowdrop, who is their main hit scan player, had a medical emergency. So they just couldn't play. So they put in Zydra, and then Zydra had to very quickly like integrate into the team. And with how he played, I mean, on the Cassidy and stuff like that, like you mentioned, it was really interesting to see a player who was like kind of thrown in to the deep end have the ability to really show their stuff. And I think that's great that now that if you're Quick Esports, you're like, great, you know, we don't have Snowdrop, who was also very good, but now we also have this other player who is a very good looking Cassidy, and we can have this kind of 3-headed dragon as a DPS rotation if it's needed. So I think that actually, again, another boon for Quick Esports as they go forward into that relegation tournament.
Yeah.
Did you guys get to, I assume you didn't get to cover every game in this huge bracket. What happened to Incendia Esports? Because I'm looking at these teams and I'm thinking like, oh yeah, this is Incendia team full of known names, full of known quantities. Surely they made like top 4 or something. No, they bottomed out.
Yeah.
They got eliminated straight away. That's surprising to me. For a team that like on paper is that stacked, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the thing for me is that obviously losing Naga hurts. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. That's like not good. Or because we went over Marvel Rivals and is playing there. I think that the thing about we didn't cover all the games. We just covered the grand final and the lower final. But there were a lot of like upsets which was really strange to me. How many upsets? Because like TA was the best team I think throughout the entirety of the regular season. I don't know if they went undefeated or if they just like they were 14-1. So they were like 43-6 in maps, which is like crazy. If you're playing like 15 games and you go 43-6 in maps, like it's an insane amount of like map differential that you have. And they like, when I watched them play against Quick Esports, they bottomed out really quickly. Like, I don't know. It looked like it was a team that shouldn't have been anywhere near like the top side of the group standings. So it was like, it was really strange that like, it looked like there were teams who like should have been really good. Like you're mentioning like Incendia, and they just didn't end up going through the bracket like they should have. And maybe that's because there were some upsets where it's like teams who should have been like higher up ended up going to the lower bracket earlier, which meant that there weren't teams who could like climb as much as they could.
I would draw. This is gonna be so out of left field. I would, and none of you are gonna get the reference, but I would draw comparisons. So English football, okay? English actual football. English football. Okay. I hope you do. Obviously, there's the Premier League, which is the premier. No pun intended. It's like the top league. The top league. Yeah, that's where all the best teams are. In the bottom, or the next tier is called the Championship. And it's a huge league. It's like 24 teams.
Yeah.
And notoriously, when teams from Premier League, they drop down to the Championship, the next tier below, there's a certain, at least when I grew up, you could feel that there's like a certain kind of like I don't know if angst is the right word, but like almost anxiety about teams dropping down into the tier below. Because usually you think like, oh, we dropped down from Premier League, we're going to be one of the top teams, fighting for another spot come the next season.
Yeah.
But the championship, it's known to just be an absolute brawl.
It's
just 24 teams, and it's like a fucking mud fight. These teams are just grappling, and it's just... they're more punishing on each other, and it's just a nightmare being stuck in the championship because it's 24 teams. So it's really hard to get demoted because there's 24 teams, but it's also really hard to get promoted because there's 24 teams. And so you're just fucking stuck fighting and just grappling in the championship, and you can't get out. And so I guess our equivalent would be Face It Masters, where it's just on the one hand you got like SR peak check, and then you run into all these teams. You're like, what the fuck is going on? And like we gotta make top 2 so we can qualify for OWCS. So there you go. I guess there's some similarities to be drawn.
I mean, even more, you're correct, because if you don't promote directly, only the first and second teams, I believe, in the championship promote. The 3 through 6 have to play a tournament to then be that third team to get in. So like, that's basically what this was, where it's like it's the championship promotion tournament where it's like, okay, you get here, you're 1 and 2, and then now you got to go play relegation, and then you got to play relegation promotion, and then you got to like figure out your way back into this. It was just it's a really interesting system, because I think that I wonder if they're going to keep it always just the 2 teams, and if they're ever going to like start, depending on what happens with OWCS, if there are going to be added more teams, like do we ever see like 3, is it a 3-team promotion relegation? That would be something I'd be interested to kind of figure out if we go like further on through OWCS, if like OWCS continues to grow and stuff like that.
It'd be entertaining for us, but for the teams it would be hellish. It'd be such a nightmare. It's like, oh my god, we gotta go through promotion relegation. We need like one good Sunday, and like you could just promote it. But yeah, I bet it's just I bet it's tough playing in Face It Masters, because you get all these like fairly stacked teams. Another point to make here, just broadly, like it's fun to see all these Face It Masters rosters, because last year when we had 16 teams in OWCS in the group stage, like we familiarized ourselves with so many players and teams, right? That just couldn't fit into OWCS. So now you see all these players we got to see last year, and like they're vying for these promotion relegation spots. So it's like, it's pretty cutthroat out there. It really is. So yeah, quick. I'd say they're one of the, obviously they won here, but I'd say they're a really good team going into promotion relegation. Frosttails Esports. How would you kind of describe this team going into
I thought
Sunday's matches?
They were good. I think that the biggest boon, I think, for teams like this is that, and it showed kind of with their play when I was watching them previously. Shout out Bullskunk, because he has like a lot of the Face It Masters games that are on his Twitch that I could study off of. But I think for Frosttail Esports, when I like watched it, it's obvious, like I think having a roster that's like a single language just removes a variable in like bracket play, which I think is really good, because it's like if you have like a super mixed roster, like how good is everyone's English and stuff like that, and calming. You've played Overwatch before, Johnny, and like I imagine English comms aren't like super hard to do. Like basic Overwatch callouts are like not terribly
we
difficult.
literally talked about this in 2016, because obviously our team was half Swedish, half French. And so we Win said this, that like when he's been on full French teams, he doesn't like being on full French teams, because actually like what ends up happening is that if everyone is from the same country, they end up bullshitting with each other, and they're like talking, they add in all these filler words. And so it just becomes like, like too much speaking. And the same thing happened when we were on Misfits with a Swedish team. It's like, we're so good friends, and like we're talking in our own language. So we're just kind of bullshitting with each other. And obviously that's not very, professional from us. It's maybe not the best communication structure. But what ended up happening was, when you're on a mixed team, you actually cut through like a lot of the bullshit, because you don't like go on vamping in like your second language. So actually for the French teams, it was like a boon, because they're French, and so like they just say what's necessary. They just say what's required, and they kind of leave it at that. But if you speak in your own native tongue, then you're kind of like going on, and you add in some jokes, or like some curse words and stuff like that.
Just joking around. You're in the middle of a Winston Genji dive, and just just a couple of fellas joking around in the middle of our dive. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, Manhattan was the funniest fucking guy. And this guy, every time some bullshit would happen, he would like fucking, say some funny shit in Swedish, and I'd be like, dude, we're trying to scream here, we're trying to have a game, like cut it out. But yeah, I mean, I think for the French teams in particular, they like having
all French
their own kind of roster like this, and we've seen this the past couple of years at least. So yeah, Frosty Esports, I think they obviously feel more comfortable with it based on the fact that they're playing with each other. So
yeah. And I know it kind of like, to me, it's like, it's just like a different variable that you don't have to like really worry about, where it's like a language, like communication thing. And it kind of showed.
Do we know for sure that they come in French, by the way? Because obviously
their
not everyone
backline is not
French.
full French.
Yeah,
by the way.
Yeah, their backline it's Gogo and Kiwi. So I'm like, my head canon is that.
Who's the staff? Who's on the staff?
Kiwi.
I should know this.
And
by
best. Oh, it's not. Never mind.
They just have a manager. I don't think they have it. Yeah. So my assumption is that like there is still like a majority of the French comms, and then Kiwi maybe took like high school French and is like able to tag along a little bit.
You guys speak French, and I'll sit back down here. I'll sit in the back line in support. Yeah. I'll
like,
shout some lambs.
Are you telling me Kiwi can't partake in all of the joking and the bantering in French? Oh man. What's he gonna say in the middle of the Winston Genji dive? He's not gonna be able to participate in the jokes.
Yeah. No, just do your job, support. It's just like kind of like where we're at. But I think like the Frostel Esports, at least from like when I watched them play before the grand final, because the grand final they looked like a little bit out of sorts. It was mostly a lot of like their mid fight was really, really strong, which kind of to me is an indicator that you can communicate really well. If you're like able to like turn fights in like 2v3s and like clutch out and like kind of have that composure with the rest of your team, that kind of tells me that you like at least have some sort of good communication. The problem with them is that they are like a little bit like super reliant on like Junker Queen, and this felt like there were a lot of teams in Face It Masters actually that were just reliant on like a singular comp. I think there was one team out of the 6 that I casted where it was like you have a lot of variability here. But I think like for the most part, this team really relies heavily on the Junker Queen. Like I said, they have that like really good MIG fight. Their staging's like a little bit iffy, and it cost them in this series in particular because like Quick Esports would just play at their own tempo and not let Frosttail set up at all in terms of their early fights. So I think that this team's very interesting to go into the promotion relegation. I think again, being a full French roster is like 4 out of 5 French, I guess, not full French, but like it is a good asset for them. Is that enough to bring them over? Because I think they were found out in this Quick Esports series pretty significantly. If you can like take away the Junker Queen, Crocs cannot play the other heroes as well as his Junker Queen is, because the Junker Queen is really good. Like the times that we saw Crocs on Junker Queen, it was like it was complete night and day compared to what it was on Hazard.
Yeah, they definitely played a lot of Junker Queen throughout the series. So that seemed like their comfort, but I think it's another team that this team preferred a bit more Lucio Kiri than perhaps some of the Juno Brig kind of stuff. But preference aside, it's another team, but like that's pretty well rounded. And like you look at the roster, and I think the damage duo is like pretty solid, well rounded. And so Frosttail's going into promotion relegation. They got second to Quick, but I'm like, you need to respect this team. Because they have that Junker Queen style, and they're a well-rounded team. They have great players. There's no like necessarily like weak link on this team, right? And so it's another one of these kind of like well-rounded top Face It Masters teams that if they have a great Sunday, they could easily qualify for OWCS.
You have to win like what, 2 series, or you have to win?
Yeah, you have to win. You have to win 2 series. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's 4 teams double elim. Yeah.
I think you're right. They could just. I mean, both of these teams. I think that like any given Sunday, what everyone says in sports and stuff like that, but I think it's genuinely true, especially with like when the stakes are that high, and these teams have already kind of played in a bracket scenario already going into that, which is so they're a little bit more warmed up. I think that, and overall the competition was really good. I think in EMEA Masters, Face It League, and also in NA Masters, I think they like definitely. It's not like they were beating up on like 4-year-olds in a sandbox, right? They were playing some very good teams with some very good names.
Yeah. So AVRL, unless you have something to add, I'll just loop in the 2 teams they're playing, of course. In the promotion relegation, it's Team Vision, who got 7th in OWCS Stage 1. They unfortunately had a bit of an incident with their tank player who couldn't participate that last weekend. We don't have to go over that again. But they picked up a new tank who isn't shown on this roster card, but if you actually click on the roster, they recently, I'm not entirely sure on the roster rules here, but they did pick up 2 players recently, and they're not on that roster card, but I'm only assuming that AMDP, who's their new tank, who was part of Team Vision at the end of last year, is going to play as their tank this weekend. And also they picked up, how do you say this, Avril? Spinal as their support player.
Spinal? I actually have no clue. Something like that.
Yeah. Who did play for Vesta Crew previously as a support player as well. So, and Pokerface in 2023. I did some research on AMDP. Obviously played for Team Vision, as I said at the end of last year. Played for it in the Saudi E-League Championship. And did get some play time playing some Brawl heroes. There was some Mauga, there was some Brahmatra, stuff like that you expect from a Brawl player. I guess the worrying sign was that on that team who played in the Saudi E-League Championship, Topdragon subbed in to play Winston. So I don't know. I don't know what that says about AMDP's hero pool. Did play some D.Va at times. So yet to be seen, but based on that alone, not knowing the full context, I'm going to guess that we're going to see quite a bit of Brawl from Vision Esports coming into this weekend. So yeah, we'll kind of see how they do. But overall, I mean, there were some impressive individuals on that Vision Esports roster. So what are we looking at here, Solomon? Looking at the oldest players. So youngest
is the youngest player. Okay.
Yeah, what is this youngest player? 17. Yeah. And then what? Average age was 21. And then Dip is also
wow.
young.
They are just. There's a lot of just young players on the Quick Esports roster.
Yeah.
Pretty much just all of them.
Yeah. Here we go. Who was the oldest? Okay. Natsuki is 27.
Wow, that is.
I can't believe Overwatch is such a children's game, huh? What a child's game.
Playing with someone 10 years your senior is crazy.
Yeah. Even Kellex is 26. So, if you think Kellex is like a veteran of the scene, then you go 27. Unbelievable, I say, as a 29-year-old. But yeah, Team Vision, I think, they really did have some moments, I think, in stage 1, particularly with their damage line, and then being able to play some double flex support at times on escort maps like Havana, for example. They were a team that definitely had some moments, and they did beat Sakura Esports, who were the last place team, did not win a single series, disappointingly enough. I think some people have a soft spot for Sakura Esports because they're their design, rocking the pink, the Hangzhou Spark kind of vibe, but also because of their roster as well, right? So, Sakura, they only won 4 maps in stage 1. That's not a good record. But they're playing with the same roster here in promotion to relegation, to the best of my knowledge. Again, I want to put respect on some of these names, like Zoro China. I think that's another solid damage duo. Hitori. I think it's a bit of a fan favorite as well, right? They just couldn't put it together in stage 1. So I guess just looking at this, you'd kind of be worrying about Sakura going into the promotion and relegation, considering they had such a bad stage 1.
But are they necessarily worse than Frosttails or Quick? That's the real question. Like, it's hard to really know.
Well, okay, so if I had to like how wide is the gap between OWCS bottom teams and Face It Masters teams, top teams? I'd kind of say that the gap is non-existent. Like, maybe I'd say that Vision is maybe favored to get through here. But when it comes to Sakura, Quick, and Frosttails, I'm like, obviously Quick are favored because they beat Frosttails, but I'm like, there's no gap here. Like, I don't think Sakura is going to be, by default better than Quick and Frosttails. Yeah. So I could see Sakura going 0-2. I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think there's a wide gap there. Do you? Do you, April?
It's just too hard to tell because if you put the Sakura Esports team in Face It Masters and you were like, yeah, this is a top 4 team, Face It Masters, I'm like, yeah, that looks, I can believe that, that I look at them and I look at a team like TA, I'm like, yep. Look at a team like Vision, I'm like, yeah, they're probably all around that level. So I think they're all around that level. I don't think they're gonna struggle. At least they shouldn't, unless there's some real mental stuff going on. They're like, oh, I can't believe we're in relegation. But what I'm trying to say, it sounds like I'm dissing them, but what I'm trying to say is they're on the level where they should be able to compete with those other promoted teams or teams coming in from Masters. So
yeah,
I think it'll be should be actually pretty competitive. You'd think, based on the quality of the teams, that even though Sakura didn't perform at OWCS, I think at a Masters level they would compete.
I mean,
I agree. I think.
Yeah, go on.
I think I would agree with what Johnny was kind of saying, and with what Ravel was saying as well. But I think Team Vision is like the one where I'm just like, I look at Simple and I look at Taejong, and those are players who I've known for a long time, and I'm like, I can't see this team like just not performing extremely well and like going back in, getting qualified. Like I think it'll be closer than probably than I'm thinking, where I'm like, okay, this should be realistically, when I look at Team Vision, I'm like, they should probably like 3-1 their way into just qualification in both of the match. Actually, I don't know if upper bracket final is best of 7 or not, but regardless, like I feel like
I think it's all best of 5.
It's all best of 5. Okay, they shouldn't have like
yeah.
that hard of a time. The other 3, I'm just like, I don't know. You know, for Quick Esports, like, are they going to put Snowdrop back in? Is Snowdrop, like, is the medical stuff fixed? Is Zydra going to be playing? Like, how's that going to work? And then, like, for Frosted Esports, have they fixed their problems with, like, the not problems really, but, like, are they just super Junker Queen reliant? Like, I think those 3 are, like, the ones where I'm just, like, any one of them can go up or down, and I would be totally, like, I wouldn't be surprised. Except Team Vision going down, I would probably be very surprised if they would, though.
Yeah. Yeah, because they have that double flex to lean on if they wanted to. So I like their style, and I think they have some good players too. So if you had to ask me, I would probably place my bets on Quick and Vision, honestly. But yeah, we'll kind of see how it goes. Any final thoughts on EMEA before we move on to the NA? I'll take the silence as the answer. There's no additional thoughts. All right, let's move over to North America, who obviously same scenario, same format. Got the bottom 2 teams taking on the top 2 teams. But here comes that team, Kenobi. The team that maybe doesn't feel like they should be here in the first place, who have, over the past couple months, just gone through Face It Masters with just like with a vengeance. It's Supernova, who of course had a good stage 4, stage 3 last year. Obviously they were the team, at least parts of that team, who upset NRG and, you know, had some really, you know, Fluffy Dreamland, who had some really amazing performances back then. They were one of the favorites to qualify for stage 1, but they were upset, needs to be said, about Amplify in that lower bracket qualifier, and therefore missed out in pretty stunning fashion. But now they're back here. How many maps did they even lose in Face It Masters? I had this in front of me. If you just scroll up there, Solomon, they lost they lost 5 maps. They went 45 and 5 in maps. 15-0. So quite dominant. Even though they're coming from Face It Masters series, Kenobi, could you say that Supernova is like the favorite team to qualify out of the 4 teams in NA?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that they, like, when we talked to I think we talked to Ryan at the end of the game, after the series against Dilducks, and like you could hear how badly they want to get back in, like through their, like I was like they need, it feels like they need to like get that salty run back in, because like when I look at the roster and look at how well they played, they shouldn't have been in Face It League Masters, right? They got upset that like this should have been a team that was playing in OWCS already, and like now having to go through this whole Face It League Masters, they got knocked into lower bracket from like upper bracket semifinals. Like this was not a guarantee for them, I think, going through that lower side, because they had to play Extinction, who was like the second best team.
Dude, how did they lose to Real Academy? Like,
I don't know. I don't know how they lost that. I think that they said that they just like they just had a bad day, is what I'm hearing from them. And then, you know, they came through and they were able to win through that lower side, beating Dilducks at the very end. But I think that when I look at Supernova, like, they had to, they really have had to go through a lot to get through, like, to get back here. And I think that there's nothing more that they want to just, like, obviously go back to OWCS. They want to, like, get that. I think Ryan said that that's all they've been thinking about. Like, all they've been thinking about is like that Amplify game. As soon as they like won that lower bracket semifinal, or final rather, and they could like guarantee that their relegation, that they're going into the tournament, they'd like a huge weight was lifted off their shoulders. Now they can play with like the freedom to be like, okay, we know we're good enough to get into OWCS. Because again, like they shouldn't have been in this tournament. Like, they realistically should have, with how much people like talk about that upset with Amplify. Like they should have. And I think they know, obviously, with like the talent that's on that roster, they should have been in OWCS already. Yeah, I think that's fueling them a lot through this tournament.
So just to speak of the roster, of course, it's Astro, Ryan, Chime, these should be names you're familiar with if you watched Stage 3, Stage 4 last year. Grapes and Renko in the back line. Renko had an amazing sleep dart play on Nepal's Sanctum where he slept someone off the map. I think it was a Dragon Blade and Genji. I can't recall if they were Dragon Blading, but it was a Genji nonetheless. So obviously stacked. They have Jutsu here in this lineup, who last year it was Haven, I believe, who we primarily saw in the hit scan role. But now they instead have Jutsu here, who I was quite impressed by.
Yeah.
Got quite a few like first picks, opened up fights, which is kind of what you need from your hit scan player. So, and then you have Ryan going kind of crazy on the tracer, hitting pulse bomb, making plays. And so like a really solid damage dual line. Do you kind of agree with that take on Jutsu?
Yeah, I thought Jutsu was really good and really surprising of how good Jutsu was. I think like when we talk about like Willis is like one of the people I was talking about in EMEA, like Jutsu seems like another like really good NA hit scan coming up the pipeline. We're not going to see Chime because I think Chime is going to a different game from what I understand based on that roster. So they only do have Ryan and Jutsu now as their DPS line. I think that when I look at this team and like when I look at like how good they play kind of around, first off, Astra was really good throughout the entire. I mean, like when again, this team, like there's no weakness really. Like when you look at like the team and how much strength they have and how much like they've been around the block with all these players, right? Like Jutsu and Ryan are a little bit more new, but like Astra's been around, Grapes has been around, Renko's like been in Overwatch League, right? Like, these players have a lot of pedigree to them and a lot of tread on their tires. So they definitely like have the chops to get through this relegation tournament. Again, it's just about like any given Sunday, like are we if they play Amplify again, are they just going to be like, and you know, you go down a little bit, like are you going to be like, oh no, here we go again. It starts to crumble. It's like, where do we go from here? But like I think that this team should realistically have a decent time getting through this promotion bracket.
So Avril scoots away. Goodbye, Avril.
He gone.
See you later.
At least they got 2 shots, right? Because there's a double elim. So I can't imagine they lose to Amplify twice.
Yeah.
It is going to be an amazing matchup. They do face Amplify in the first match.
I'm so glad that's the first one we get. It's going to be so good.
Yeah. So it's funny because I'm like, oh, Supernova's going to get vengeance here. But then as we've learned, if Supernova has a bad day, like who knows what's going to happen. So yeah, we'll see. But they're going to be a really strong team. Then, coming from FaZe Master, we got Dildox. What is your read here on Dildox?
When I first looked at this roster and I looked at where they were in the tournament, I was like, how did this happen? Like, I did not expect this team, like, that Extinction roster was one that I was like, okay, surely with, like, Haven and how good Haven's been on, like, a DPS, and then, like, you know, Razor got pulled out of the forest by Noxious to go to St. Clair at one point. Like Razor's been around a long time in tier 2, but how like Razor was playing as like kind of what I remember in tier 2 as like being this very good Sombra Pharah player, you know, very good on those projectiles, and I was impressed from what I saw to them getting to that upper bracket final. Now they didn't have to play, I mean, they beat Extinction, which was the biggest upset, right? Them beating Extinction kind of like to me, and then they didn't have to play Supernova in upper bracket final because Supernova lost to Rad Academy. They beat Rad Academy 3-2. This team like went through a lot. I don't know if they have like, I think this is kind of going to be similar to where it's EMEA, where it's like I think Frosttail and Dildox are very similar, where it's like I think they can, but there is like a pretty significant gap between them and between the other team that's like going forward through into the tournament, into the promotion tournament.
Solomon, you good? Oh boy. And then, so PDK played pretty much all maps, right? PDK played all maps for Dildox, which is their flex player listed here. I did just want to quickly mention that one of the damage players on Dildox, at least here in the roster card on Wikipedia, their alternate ID, I don't think this is their actual ID, is Gap You and Phone, which is three players on Amplify. So Karma's here. Alternate ID is Gap You and Phone. So there's definitely some context there where that's
mental warfare at its finest, I think, right there. That's really what that was.
North American Overwatch moment right there, yeah. Yep. I'm assuming they all know each other, Solomon, because if they didn't, it would be very weird. But yeah, I'm assuming there's some friendship going on there. I mean, would you say that they're a Pharah-oriented team? Obviously, I think RSR played quite a lot of Pharah, had some good moments, but also some moments where I'm like, you're playing Pharah, it's tough. So would you attribute them that kind of like a play style of theirs,
Yeah.
or would you say that it's like, you know, just like something they can go to if they want to?
I think they would prefer to put Razor on like comfort, where it's like Pharah, Sombra, like the two things that Razor's kind of been known for. I mean, they even like I think they even like target banned Razor, I think twice during that grand final, where they banned Pharah and they also banned Sombra. So they I think they're really reliant on like Razor playing his comfort for the most part. PDK I think did look really good on that support line. It's just that I think Supernova is just too much of a titan for Dildux to match up against with how good the roster of Supernova was comparatively. Even though like Dildux were no sluts, they still took a map when they could play their composition well. So I think that the Pharah stuff and the Sombra stuff are things that like teams are gonna have to be looking out for, those other two teams, because you can't just like, especially in a scenario like this, you can't like, you have to put respect and you have to study on like every team, because you get 2 lives, right? You get 2 lives, and if you just don't study and you're worried about like a Sombra, you're worried about like a Pharah, and some stuff like that happens, and you aren't prepared for what Dildux are going to play, because I don't think there are a lot of other teams playing probably the same like very projectile DPS heavy style that Dildux like to play. So I think that they definitely have some sort of an asset going into that relegation or the promotion relegation tournament to maybe catch a team off guard that's not necessarily expecting it. Besides probably Supernova, where if they do end up playing Supernova, those two teams know each other very well, not just because they play each other, but just with who's on the roster. Everyone knows each other, like Solomon said.
Yeah, some nice highlights here. I'd love to see it. Good catch there, Solomon. Good catch there. And the observers. Moving on, let's talk about the two teams who are coming in from OWCS Stage 1. It's going to be Shikigami and Amplify, that we'll quickly mention as well. Shikigami finished 7th in Stage 1. They beat Amplify 3-1. It's a good win. That's a good win for Shikigami. Rest of the way, they lost every single match 0-3. So not great to go 0-3 against literally every other opponent. That being said, I would like, I'm proposing this to you, AVRL, and Kenobi right here. I would like to attribute Shikigami the title of Gatekeeper of North America. I feel like Shikigami, just like Atlanta Reign in, I don't know, 2021, 2022. I forget what year we said it. Atlanta Reign is like the mid-tier gatekeepers. But right. I feel like Shikigami, they are perpetually going to be the 7th or 6th team here in WCS. I think they've been around this scene for so long. They've been around in North America here. So I'm kind of, they are the gatekeeper for Faceit Masters, I feel like.
It's like the gatekeeper for the bottom. Wouldn't be a mid gatekeeper for sure. No. It'd be the gatekeeper for you get into OWCS. Except they can only gatekeep one team.
Yeah,
because one other team has to make it in.
If you're above Shikigami, you're a good North American team. Yeah. If you're below, you're stuck in the trenches.
You're above Shikigami, you get to stay in OWCS and not get relegated.
They're just gonna perpetually. If you can beat Shikigami in one series, you can stay in OWCS.
So that's just how I feel. Like I feel like they have a good roster. Like I respect their performances. Yes, they lost 0-3 to all these teams in North America besides Amplify, who they beat. But I'm still like, I put respect on them. I'm not like, oh, they went. I'm like, yeah, I think they're still like kind of the top dog until proven otherwise. And then you obviously Supernova, we already talked about, really good team, probably favored. But I'm not gonna dismiss Shikigami. If Shikigami isn't in OWCS Stage 2, to me somehow that would be weird. What Shikigami's not here? That's how I feel like in this new post-owl world anyway. I don't know if you guys agree.
They're always like kind of just hovering above that line. It's like, they're always there. Like even if they're like, towards the bottom half, they always seem like they're
they're like ex Oblivione of North America or something. I don't know.
That name used to mean something. That used to be a top tier team.
Yeah, that was it. It's still.
Well, sorry. Is there? There's probably a better example, but that was the first one that came to mind. I don't know if that's
fair enough.
Okay. So yeah, I still respect this team. If you need a refresher on who's on Shikigami, it's Arise, Drunk, Danny, that's your damage players, Solo and Graveyard in the backline, and Graveyard and Rahimi in the backline, and Solo is the tank for Shikigami. So I'm like, yeah, these are good players. Like when I watch Shikigami play, like yeah, it's not going to challenge the top 4 teams, but I don't know. I still think it's a respectable roster. So the gatekeepers of North America. That's what I'm going for.
Gotta beat him to get in or stay in. That's
exactly
just how it is.
And then we have Amplify, who, we talked a lot about in these two segments here. We talked a lot about like well-rounded teams. We talked about teams who like there's no weakness or anything. They're well-rounded. They played a straight-up game. I feel like Amplify is a team that kind of like throws a wrench into the things. I don't know if I'm trying to be American or English.
No, that was good. That you got it.
Yeah. Great. So obviously try to lean quite a bit on Gaps Mauga in stage 1. Try to lean a lot of Sombra play from phone. I think Winter was one of the standout players for this team in OWCS stage 1. But still, you're like, this team has like, they got their own little weird style going. Now, they did take maps from SSG and Timeless. So while they did go 0-7, they took maps from like some of the best teams in the entire stage, So you got to attribute them to that. But can this kind of play style, can this carry them to a second stage here in North America?
I'm really interested to see how they play against Dilducks because of that kind of play style where it's like, if it is going to be like super Sombra heavy and like, it's not something we see like too much of anymore, but like, Razor and I think Phone as well. Like, I think that is going to be interesting to kind of see if those two, I don't think they play each other. Yeah, they don't play each other at the start.
No.
Because we get Supernova. But if we do end up seeing it at any point, I think probably one of the best things for Supernova is that they played a team that might be a little bit similar to Amplify in Dilducks going into this. So they kind of already know if there's going to be like some of that like cheeky Sombra play. It's not going to catch them off guard. When I talked to, I think we interviewed Ryan wanted to play Amplify so bad. I could hear it in their voice that they were just like, we need to play. It felt like they just kind of like need to right that wrong more so than anything else. And I think that I don't know. I mean, I feel like on paper, again, we talked about it as it being an upset and like fair play to Amplify for winning that first series, right? Like, I mean, that was an incredible. But like AVRL also said earlier, it probably can't happen twice. If there's one time where like Supernova, I think like find like maybe they just do get like a little mental anguish and they take some psychic damage because of what happened last time and they fall and they fall the lower bracket, they probably are going to be fine still.
Yeah, it's going to be tough because Mauga got nerfed as well.
Yep.
Which I think, it is Gap's best hero, right? So I could see them just maybe surrendering on the Mauga gameplay and just going to some other kind of brawl, try to set up phone.
Yeah.
But
is that how they won? They won an Amalgam before?
It was like Phone Sombra, right? Phone was
Phone Sombra and Gap Mauga is how they beat Supernova the first time around.
But did Supernova also play Mauga?
They didn't play like any. I think in the series it was like Astro was like on Winston and Hazard.
Yeah, I don't think so. They tried to play around it, but then it's like, the Mauga won. Big surprise. Like tough.
So I was gonna say Mauga, great equalizer.
You could force it on a couple of maps too. Like there are maps where it's just like, if you don't play Mauga, you lose. I feel like right now with what I'm seeing with the current.
I did follow that qualifier tournament, and I have very like vivid memories of just like, are they really gonna win with Mauga? Are they really gonna win with Mauga? And then they won with Mauga, and I was like, I guess I'm not surprised. But all the other teams tried to like deal with the Mauga, counter Mauga, or they didn't play into it. Yeah, so that was how Amplify got the upset in the first place. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting series against Supernova. We'll have to see if that kind of niche composition is enough to carry them across the finish line. But I would definitely say that this is, especially after the Mauga nerfs, this is an Amplified team that might be a bit hamstrung. And again, I'll say that I think Winter had some great performances, but overall it's going to be an uphill battle, I feel like. But you never know. We'll have to see. So, if we're going to make some light predictions, I guess I'd go Supernova and Shigigami.
Yeah, me too. I think that's what I'm leaning towards.
Yeah. And obviously there's a lower bracket component, like we said. So we'll have to see who comes out from the lower bracket. But or Supernova, they might just mess things up again and lose out again.
I feel like it at that point, just like I don't know.
They would literally go to Marvel Rivals.
I don't know.
We're not doing this again.
Yeah, I don't think you could play another Face It League Masters with this. I would just like. I just collapse.
The team would explode for sure.
Yeah, the team would explode. I don't think you can do it again.
Oh my god. Yep. tough. It's going to be fun because I think both here in EMEA and North America, it's going to be close. You're not quite sure who's going to come out on top, and obviously it'll be a huge relief to qualify for OWCS Stage 2. Like, it can't be undersold, I guess, how much is on the line here for all these 4 teams, right? So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun this upcoming Sunday. Let's see who wins. All right, that's EMEA. That's North America. I think it's about time we move on onto Korea and what this whole thumbnail was about. We got a beautiful thumbnail done about they went to Korea. The Soop Cup is going on, and we have NTMR Virtus Pro joining some of the Korean teams later on in the playoffs here. They actually have secured their slots in the semis. Is it the semis? They're winning the semis?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. But before then, all these Korean teams, they're battling each other. They're qualifying. And we had matches this past weekend where some of the, I guess, lower-end Korean teams, they battled it out to see who would eventually qualify here for a deep playoff run. So we can kind of chat about that and see who impressed us here. So as you can see on the screen right now, Onside Gaming and Pokerface qualified. Onside Gaming, that's formerly From the Gamer. If you recognize that squad as well, they beat Vesta 3-1. And Pokerface beat All Tab, which is a bit of a mixed roster, I guess you could say, of some various...
Old names now.
Some old names.
Kilo isn't dead. Kilo's still out there, dude. He's still fragging, apparently. I thought that guy just dropped off the face of the planet. Now he's there.
I can't believe Attack was on that roster. I was like, that dude. I remember the Element Mystic Attack. It was just like, oh well.
Kilo is one of those interesting players that I'm like, because I was watching the VOD and I just had the thought. It's just like, you know what happened to Kilo? Like nothing. Like it came into Summer Session Shock with a lot of expectation. I think it was the year after Ans left. Do I remember that correctly?
I think he was Ans' replacement. Yeah. Well,
yeah. And then it was like, oh, just replace the best Widowmaker we've ever seen in the league. Yeah, go ahead, Kilo. You know, no pressure, buddy. And then Kilo, I think
did
to
not
some,
do that.
Yeah, is it fair in hindsight to say that Kilo kind of like didn't meet expectations? I still think Kilo is like a really talented player.
There were a lot of expectations
real?
on it. Like,
I don't think Ans. I don't think Ans met expectations either of his own expectations. If we're going to be completely honest.
Ooh.
Wait, what? Wait, which season are we talking about? Because 2020 is like the best season of all time.
Every season that's not 2020 season. Okay. Every season that's not 2020, he did not live up to his own expectations.
I mean, yeah, but he already did it. Like he
to live up to that expectation, even he couldn't do. Just to be fair to Kilo.
Yeah, I mean, Ans 2020 is like legend stuff. That's one of the best hitscan seasons.
Yeah, that Ash on Route 60, not Route 66, Hollywood, where he coach guns to the top and just duos or 1v2s the supports is like.
Yeah, but I think Kilo is one of those interesting hitscan players who kind of like, I don't want to say got lost in time, but it's one of those names you are like, there's this talented individual who you know, was supposed to have like a great career, but maybe hasn't competed for as many chips as you'd expect them to. So yeah, they lost to Pokerface in a pretty one-sided 3-0 there. I do think we could chat about those final qualifier matches if we wanted to quickly. So I guess starting with day 2 there was All Tab against Pokerface. Any takeaways from this one? I think that just I'll quickly go through my thoughts there, and then you can add on if you want. But it was very one-sided. I wrote down a note that I thought Spint looked like the best Pharah player in the world because they didn't really do anything to stop Spint. No, I'm saying that as like All Tab played so poorly that Spint looked really good.
Okay. I was like, God damn, bro, that's some high praise.
No, it was more like, All Tab is struggling to deal with Spint, and so Spint just looked like dominating or having like game of his life. But yeah, that there was a little resistance on Elios to start things off. And then, you know, Dart. I think Dart was quite impressive in the Tracer matchup against Otto, but those were a couple of my takeaways. I'm not sure what you thought, Errol.
This entire qualifier just wasn't that strong because what you essentially have is Pokerface, which is a pretty, unfortunately, bottom team in Korea. Like, still competitive. Like, you know, I think they would do well generally against, like, the lower half of any of NA or EMEA, but yeah, they're the team that just like really couldn't quite get past the tier gap of from T1 and FTG onwards in Korea this stage. Basically, the teams that won in the qualifier kind of deserve to win. Vec was obviously the worst team in Korea. Onside is the remake of FTG, which was one of the mid-tier, solid mid-tier teams. I would have said they could have been one of the top tier teams, and they kind of fell apart a little bit. So no surprises that they go through. Poker Face being better than Alt Tab, no surprises there, given that Alt Tab are full of players that are kind of like either coming back or recently dropped, or, you know, I don't even know who Achieve is, a new player. Maybe New Era losing to Alt Tab is maybe more of the surprise here, because New Era is at least a little bit more known quantity. You'd think they wouldn't lose to a team of players that you thought would be a little washed, but, you know, 3-2 happens. Probably New Era wouldn't have beat Poker Face anyway.
Oh, it's reverse sweep too. I didn't watch that series.
Yeah, I think New Era probably shouldn't be losing that game, but I think New Era don't make it through to the playoffs. We do actually, at least in this tournament, still have the best of the rest of the Korean teams that are not going to Hangzhou, but Zeta didn't enter this tournament. I'm not too sure what the deal there is. Possibly it has something to do with the fact that they're rebuilding their roster with Fighter being dropped. That might have something to do with it. I don't know. But outside of Zeta, this is like, you do have the rest of the Korean teams that played in OWCS outside of Zeta in here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think qualifiers went about as you'd expect. And then the whole thing, by the way, is single elim, so pretty rough. Probably scheduling happening there in terms of just how quickly they have to get through the tournament. But
yeah, I want to get through 2 weekends maybe.
It does just mean that you can't really, you can get unlucky with the bracket and you can't make any mistakes. Like, for example, I think New Era probably would have gotten a little bit further. It did seem like they got upset there, and a lower bracket would have helped them out. But if only 2 teams are coming out of this one, Poker Face and Onside are probably still the favorites regardless.
Yeah. I do think that the Onside Gaming Vesta series, though, there were some fun moments there. I thought it was quite fun to watch because I think there was a lot of like decent highlights from the damage players in particular. I think that Sunjun had some good crazy performances on Ilios. Scarlet had some nice moments on Suravasa as well. Hitting some nice pulse bombs. Prophet had a crazy Circuit Royale on the Widowmaker.
As he does.
As Prophet does. Yeah. And Cezin as well. With Cassidy, I believe in sometimes, like had some nice moments too. So like there was quite a bit of like DPS highlights like throughout that series, a bit back and forth. Fun to watch Onside. They played like a Pharah, I think it was a Pharah Widowmaker. No, was it Pharah? It was Pharah Sojourn, I'm pretty sure, like Esperanza too.
Ooh, okay.
So it's like a fun damage shooter. Like there was just a lot of happening. Esperanza had like a crazy like Pharah duel where they were just like trading each other like every fight. It was pretty fun to watch, and there was a crazy overtime as well on Circuit Royale. So it was a pretty fun back and forth series, and I think, you know, some players in that series they like made a good name for themselves. So, but yeah, Onside Gaming win 3-1, but I think it was a pretty fun series. So.
Onside do downgrade a little bit because they lost Vigilante and they had to get Kivison.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Vigi's on T1 right now. That's where he went. Vigilante.
Vigi went
T1.
Vigilante
got picked up. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm interested to see how. Anyway.
Yeah,
I'm interested to see how
that.
the Korea teams play against the NA and EU teams. I think that's like the biggest thing that I'm really interested about this.
Oh boy.
Top Cup is that because it's like this is a great litmus test to be like, how good is NA? Because if Nightmare and Virtus Pro both don't win here,
oh man,
that would no one would be surprised, but also it would be sad.
No one would be. Are you sure no one would be surprised as the man of the people who has the finger on the pulse? Like, obviously you did Korea.
Everyone always overrates the Western teams and they get dominated by Korea. This happens every single time.
But it's not like they're playing like crazy raccoons or they're playing Falcons, right? They're playing like. Where did T1 finish in Korea? They finished like what? 5th?
They finished 6th, actually, technically speaking.
Okay, yeah.
But
so like, if the 6th place Korean team beats Nightmare, like that, it's DEFCON 0 for NA. Like it's not
well,
good.
We've been through DEFCON with NA before, but yes, again.
It would be nice to believe that number 1 from NA could beat number 6 from Korea.
And that number 1 from EMEA could beat number what?
Then
4
again,
or 5 from Korea.
They're playing against Rush, who honestly, the Rush rumors do be hitting sometimes with T1. And they be throwing some games out there, so anything can happen. It's also single elim. What I would really want is for at least the playoffs to be double elim.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe the schedule is just that tight and they couldn't afford to do a double elim, but it's like, dude.
But they're doing a third place match. Like,
I don't know. I should have done the math. Hang on.
Is it 3
do the
days?
math real quick.
They're doing 2 matches over a
You
third
do
day
the-
for 3 days.
Yeah. How? Wait. I'm gonna double check right now because
it'd be one
on
extra
stream.
match, right?
relegation.
Because
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How is it? Would it be 1 extra match?
because you put the third place game as the lower final, and then
I'm not
you
doing this.
Is it 6 games?
Good luck.
It's 6 games, right?
yeah.
Holy shit! Wait, no. It would be the same number of games, wouldn't it?
You put
4
I'm not doing
team
this.
4,
playoffs.
and then you-
Yeah, because you have a upper bracket final, a lower bracket final, and the grand final. It's 6 games. Dude, they could have done a double elim. Are we serious right now? They could have. Wait, no, it's 6 teams.
Yeah, 6 teams. It's
It's
not
6
4
teams, not
teams.
4.
4 teams, you can do 6 matches. But since
Okay,
it's 6
well-
teams and the 2 Western teams are waiting in the semis.
I looked up 6-team double elimination bracket, and this is not helpful. So
Well, yeah. So
Can't figure it out off the top of my head, but I'll say it like
it's
this:
deceiving because there's 6 teams and yeah.
if you can do it in within 8 games, you do 4 matches a day. They should do double elim.
okay, so
Because
I
they're going
guess
to do 4 matches a day anyway. They're going to do these, all the quarters and semifinals are going to play it on the same day, and then they're going to do a grand and a third place match. It's like, come on. They could have, if it only takes 2 more games, they could have done a
Yeah.
double elim. And the reason why I'm going to harp on this, first of all, because we all know double elim is better, but it's better in this case because you might get to see either VP or Nightmare play against a separate team other than whoever just wins between T1 Onside and Way and Pokerface, right? You get a little bit more of a feeling of like, who can they beat? Who are they going to lose to, etc. That's really important because you want to get a good read on NAEU. You want to see a little bit more than just them playing potentially only one Korean team or whatever. Because there is a real world where, as sad as it might sound, if they both lose, Nightmare and VP play each other and they don't play another Korean team.
Nobody's
Right?
doing serious visualizing.
I think it's just
No.
1 extra match. Okay, so like the way I'm looking at it is okay. So you
Dude,
play the
how are you gonna fit 6 teams into
No,
the
no, no,
double?
no, okay. You play the quarterfinals as normal. It's like you play the quarterfinals as normal, and then like so one of the Korean teams. Then you do like a four bracket double limb, and then that's like it's like 2 extra games because you already have a third place match. So you have the two upper bracket semifinals. That's 2 games. Then you have 1 lower bracket semifinal. You have a grand final, or you have a winter final, a lower final, and then you have grand final. That's 2 extra games. If they just keep the quarterfinals single limb and then double limb the last 4. We've done it. Then it's 2 extra games, and then
But
like
you can
Avril
fit
said,
4
everything.
games a day.
Which
You
you
can
can
fit
fit.
that in. You can fit that in.
I trust
saying.
you guys. I'm not going to expend brain calories on this.
Yeah, so if
Can I give a hot take just to rile Avril up a little bit?
okay. Are you gonna say double limb?
So double elim, it's the most fair. We all know this. It's the most fair because you avoid the scenario that literally happened in the OWCS China where you try to avoid once again. Literally, you avoid that scenario where you're like, oh, we ran into Falcons. Oh, we're screwed. Sorry, we got Falcons on our side of the bracket. We're just screwed. Like Crazy Raccoon, like whatever. Insert amazing team. Obviously, so double elim, obviously the most fair. For Soop Cup though, it's kind of pressure, exciting. Like, ooh, we only have 1 life. We only have 1 life. If we lose, we're out. It's a little exciting.
you have triggered
Little
me.
exciting.
You're
Yeah.
not wrong. You have triggered me. I don't care. No, it's not more exciting. If it's dude, it being a Mickey Mouse format doesn't make it more exciting.
Single elim is Mickey Mouse. So would you say that like
Kinda.
Well, I mean, there's a third place game.
Kinda.
It's kind of Mickey Mouse.
it's the
there's a
football
third
World
place.
Cup Mickey Mouse?
That's I knew you were gonna. I knew someone was gonna mention the World Cup, man. I knew it. After your Premier League talk, I was like, he's gonna talk about the fucking World Cup, that it's single elim and that there's a fucking third place match.
Double elim World
I mean,
Championships.
it
Come
is.
on, man.
I mean, it is. If the actual real grand finals happens in the semi, and the other team coming out of semi got an easier run through, and then the grand
happens, like,
final
It's like
is
the
a
number
complete
1
joke.
sports argument.
And the grand final is a complete joke because the real grand final took place.
Dude, in the
semi.
NBA,
Then
they
yes,
split
it
to
is.
East and West. And you're like, oh, the West Conference is like way harder than the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, but there's logistical things there taking place where you fly across the travel to and that kind of crap. So I don't know. There's traditional sports gets like weird with like the whole logistics of that.
Imagine we start a league and we divide it into East and West, and then they meet in one place.
I'll do you one better. How about we do like Pacific North, Pacific South, or Pacific East, West, and then Atlantic North, South, or whatever the fuck that is.
Oh,
how about we do that? How about we split into 4 regions, Johnny? Wouldn't that be fun?
Well, they're all in California, so we got to do like NorCal, SoCal, and then like all the different parts of California that all the teams are just in.
How about we put everyone in LA and pretend it's an international league? Anyway,
let's put everyone in Denver, Colorado.
Playoffs. So,
Solomon, can you? Yeah, go on. Arrow.
Tell Solomon what
I wanted Solomon to bring up this Reddit thread.
Okay.
I posted in.
As that happens, I will say this won't take long. Is that if one of Nightmare and VP lose to a Korean team and the other one beats a Korean team, you will get a pretty fun 3rd place match where you get to see another Western versus Korean matchup. So actually, I hope that happens. I hope one of them beats a Korean team, one of them loses, and that way in the 3rd place match, it'll be fun.
I'd rather they just both win though, like because then we get to see NA versus EMEA.
Well, if they both lose, you get to see that too.
Okay, yeah, then there's that. I guess
it would be a little moose boosh going to Champions Clash. Like, oh, how are these?
I would rather in this tournament. I would rather see Nightmare play. I would rather see Nightmare play Virtus Pro more than probably anyone else, just because I want to see.
I will tell you this right now: VP have the best chance of moving through because I think Pokerface is still not that great, and we are probably weaker without WhoRU, although they still kept the rest of their team, so it could still be pretty strong. I am still not entirely sure how I feel about Topdragon, given how he was in GenG. I'll give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt, but bro, WhoRU on Way was such a carry.
They can fix him.
Such a carry.
We can fix him.
We can fix him. We're Topdragon fans here.
This every mag fan for the last 5 years. T1 and onside.
I'd say, well, yeah. Let's move on.
T1 and onside gaming, between those two, they're actually both pretty tough. T1 on paper should be a lot tougher than onside, given that onside is FTG, but with kind of downgraded. But T1 is still like, that team still looks really strong, except for the fact they don't have a Lucio. So we'll see if they need a Lucio, because if we're in an Ana Brig dive meta, then again, you can ban around that. Imagine you ban Brig, and then what does T1 do? Do they just play like Juno Ana or some crap? Like, how hard does T1 try and dodge Lucio this weekend? Tonight?
It's going to be interesting.
So that's what I'm saying. Nightmare have the tougher game, VP have the easy game. So we're set up for what I'm saying. Like, one of them loses and one of them wins, and then you get like a interesting grand final and a 3rd place match where it's a Western versus Korean team in both the grand final and the 3rd place. I think that would be the best result if one wins and one loses.
What is the word for someone who can communicate with ghosts?
A psychic? No.
A medium?
A medium, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like T1 they still have
scammer.
They still have some Soul Infernal Philadelphia Fusion.
The lawyers are going to come for Plat Chat now, AVRL. I can't believe you've done this.
T1. There's still some fusion energy attached to T1.
So they're going to get second, is what you're
feel
saying.
it. The aura. The T1 aura. It's a little off. It's a little Philadelphia Fusion-esque. So that Reddit thread that I wanted Solomon to bring up, because earlier today, the day of recording, someone did post a Soop Cup playoffs predictions and hot takes. And it's about what you'd expect. There's some people who think that the Western teams are going to bomb out. There's some people who believe that the Western teams are going to beat some of the Korean teams. I'm not going to say stomp because I haven't seen anyone say that. But if we do scroll to the very bottom, you can just go all the way to the bottom.
That's where the best comments are.
That's where the best comments are.
Yeah, let's sort by controversial.
Controversial. Yeah. That's the best way to.
Yeah. Solomon, I don't know if you can scroll down to the bottom here. We can look at the bottom comments. All the way to the bottom. All the way.
All the way.
Okay, so there's a new comment apparently. But if you look at the number 2 and 3 last comments, one of them is VP and Nightmare stomps everyone in finals 4-1. And the other one is from Mod William. I predict both Western teams losing right away. So that about gives you the idea that it's in between. It's either of those two. There's a little bit in between there. So yeah, there's people making some preds here.
What's interesting is both these teams are in Korea boot camping.
Yes.
And they've been scrimming these Korean teams for a while now. I don't know how long they've been boot camping. So actually, you know, like it's tough to say. Like, I don't have any scrim leaks. I don't actually know how good they are versus the Korean teams. It could be the case that they're actually both doing super well in Korean scrims. They might just both win. It could be the case where they're doing averagely and then they show up on match day and the Koreans are just more experienced on land. They just win. Could be that they're sucking in scrims. I don't know. I hope they're not sucking in scrims.
Really bad.
It's good that they are on the boot camp because that'll help them a lot going to Hangzhou.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think because they're both different play styles as well. Because if you think about VP and considering they're leaning quite a bit on Vestola, right? Like if VP has a bad result here, that would kind of like really concern me for like Champions Clash. I'd be like, whoa. Like you're bringing your, you know, Vestola-centric playstyle and you can't get past some of these teams. Like that doesn't bode well. And then you have Nightmare who, you know, they like to play very like aggressive, proactive. They got great damage players. Siru, you know, who want to take it to some of these, so they get to the global stage with the Tracer play. Ultraviolet goes for some crazy nades. I think Admiral has really, you know, helped this team when it comes to like strategy, ultimate usage, all stuff like that, right? Like I think Nightmare is a really fun playstyle. Play very proactively. Won in North America, beat SSG, of course. So this might be cope, but like even if Nightmare lost, I feel like they could like review that and make maybe some quick improvements. Because I feel like their style is kind of, this sounds stupid, but like international in the sense that they play stuff that isn't niche. Like they play a pretty, you know,
You're saying
default.
they're flexible. You're saying they're flexible.
I wouldn't even say they're flexible, but like if they could take it to a, you know, pretty standard, you know, like Kuffa plays to Winston and then you play like, you know, Lucio Ana and then like a Tracer or something, you know, like they.
I mean, the team is not the team for the most part is like in terms of playing together. This team has played together like a lot in like other stuff. Like a lot of them are like collegiate players right now. I think Zura is kind of the only one who doesn't have like a super. I think he's on Winthrop right now, but he hasn't been playing for a long time. But like Wheats and like it's a lot of this is like this Illinois State core. Like I remember hearing from Illinois State when they won collegiate last year, and I think they like Admiral was there or they were talking about like who keeps you guys level or anything, and they're like, oh yeah, Admiral. I could listen to Admiral say anything and I just believe it, right? With how good he is. So I think that this team like. I feel like it would be very hard for this team to like collapse if they lost. It would just look really bad on paper where it's like NA -- 1 loses to like, you know, Korea #6 or whatever. Like that would just look not ideal for going into Hangzhou especially. But I feel like it's like a team that like shouldn't have that much problem bouncing back from that because they all are very, very experienced and have had like a lot of championship pedigree, and they do. I think they've played. I think every single one of them has played on LAN except for Zura, and I'm 99% sure about that. But I think they should be fine.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, but that sounds about right. Avril, let me ask you this then. If the Western teams lose to those Korean teams, how hard should we panic going into Champions Clash? What are the panic levels if the Western teams lose out? First
of all, why aren't you already panicked, given how...
They haven't played yet. What do you mean?
I'm panicked. In my mind's eye, when I'm thinking about like the fact that like Nightmare or VP or both lose, I'd be like, well, the West is like fucked.
Guys,
like...
let me say this. I'm gonna be this is gonna be extremely blunt. Nightmare and VP could both 4-0 the Korean teams in a game that's only gonna be up to 5 maps. And all these teams will still just all lose to Falcons and Crazy Raccoon in Hangzhou anyway. It doesn't matter how well Nightmare and VP play in this tournament. They will all get wiped out. They're going to get... Dude, it'll be another tournament where the Western teams score 0 maps against Falcons and Crazy Raccoon again.
No, I think SSG, could take some maps.
Weren't they like at the end of last year in like Sweden? Wasn't Shock like really close to like unlocking something against like one of those teams?
I'm going to be real. Toronto Defiant last year was a better Western team and a more stacked Western team than any Western team that exists this year, and they got fucking wiped out last year.
Yeah, you might.
So
not
we're
even
not
be
going.
wrong.
We're not. We're.
I mean,
I'm not even.
They had
I'm
merit.
not.
Merit
someone.
Come on, dude. Like,
someone.
it's.
Yeah.
If to be the real downer here. Sadly, it doesn't matter how well Nightmare VP here. As far as Hangzhou goes, every Western team is getting wiped by those two teams.
I mean,
so,
considering I thought we spent a decent amount of time last year talking about how the Western teams were going to have good performances internationally, and that not ended up happening. I feel like the vibe is not great. The pre-tournament vibe is not very confident.
The vibes are putrid.
Against the rest of Korea, I think it could be good. You know what? Going into these games for Soop, I think it's possible that they could beat some of these Korean teams for sure. I don't think they're going to get wiped out here. I think this is going to be competitive. So, especially given that they're currently boot camping, they're learning things and figuring stuff out. If VP, if there's a hero pool issue with Vastola, they've already figured that out. Well, they've had to do something about it because they've already been in Korea, screaming against Korean teams, learning what the meta is. And if that's the issue, then they have to come up with they had to have already come up with a solution, because otherwise, you know, they're done for. This is at least not a situation where they're going into Korea completely dry, no idea what's happening, just walk on stage, play a game, and then discover, oh shit, we're playing the wrong meta, guys. Like, that's not happening. So at least Nightmare and VP are super prepped going to this tournament. This will be about as prepped as you could be going to this tournament. And it's against beatable Korean teams. So the reason why Reddit is so 50-50 about like how well the Western teams do here is because it probably does feel pretty 50-50 at the end of the day.
That's so hard to say. It really is so hard to say, but it would be a bad look if they lost.
I think it's panic, but it's bigger panic if they lose. And it depending on how they lose. If they lose, like if they get like shellacked by both the Korean teams, it's not a good look.
I mean, at that point, it's just disheartening. Yeah, you're like, fuck.
Like if we come out of this, if we come out of this with a T1 3-0 and a poker face or way 3-0.
Oh my god! Don't even say it.
You're like, you know what? Let's just go to stage 2. Let's cancel the Hangzhou
Don't
tickets.
Don't even go to Hangzhou.
Let's just go back home. Just get Team Rock, replace one of the teams, get them in there. Ducks. I don't care. Send Dill Ducks to fucking Hangzhou. It doesn't matter anymore.
Shikigami, get in there.
Let's get Shikigami. Let's get someone. You win promotion relegation. Guess what? You go to Hangzhou.
Where's phone? Where's phone?
It'll be funny. It'll be funny if Shikigami and Nightmare win the same amount of maps versus Crazy Raccoon.
Oh my god.
Which is 0.
Oh god. Whew. Oh, we Western audience are gonna sweat out these games.
The most fun experiment to do would be to play 2 blind like maps. Let's just say the same map. Let's just say Lee Jung Tower. Nightmare and Shikigami both play against Crazy Raccoon. And then you get a VOD of both of them playing against Crazy Raccoon. All of the HUD is turned off, no kill feed, and your goal is to guess which one of the teams that lost versus Crazy Raccoon was Shikigami, which one's Nightmare. That'll be the fun experiment.
This is an amazing idea.
See if you can tell the difference.
That is
see if you can tell the difference between one of the worst NA teams and one of the best NA teams against like Crazy Raccoon. See if you can tell the difference, because if Crazy Raccoon are on the standard, the fun result is that you won't be able to tell the difference. Because it won't matter who goes up against them. They're going to get shellacked
from The Office. It's the same picture. It's just
that is great content.
It's like, I can't tell which one's Shikigami. They're both getting their asses whipped. Wow.
Oh my god.
They both look amateur. Which one's Shikigami? I don't know.
All right. Should we move on to the last region? We're going to talk about here. It's OWCS China. AVRL, you co-streamed the matches once more. Kenobi, did you watch them?
I did watch. I watched, but I watched them like because East Coast time is just not. It's not indicative to watch.
Yeah, that's how I feel in the Pacific over here.
You chose the worst place to live to be a Chinese fan. I'll tell you that right now.
I did, dude. I
already Pacific is worse.
Dude, I already did it when I worked. I was like, I don't got time. Unfortunately, don't have time. But yeah, nothing was really shocking to me about OWCS China. It was like, okay, it's I talked about this when I was on OWCS earlier, where I was like, yeah, it's like once again is gonna win everything, probably very convincingly, and then it's about the middle class, lower class teams, how they're gonna end up doing. And like, is there going to be any like team that's like kind of like this new up and coming talent for China? Because we got to reset with China. It's just we're at a point where the game is just back, right? It hasn't been there for a long time.
You gotta give them some time.
There's got to be time. And like Little Sheep is like a team where it's a lot of players that I wasn't really familiar with, didn't play when I was covering China as closely as I was.
Apparently all boosters.
Oh, okay. Well then.
What?
Oh, that's what I learned. Apparently they're all boosters.
I wouldn't be with the naissance of like the entire region. I'd be like, okay, yeah, it's gonna take a while. And then
I was told they're not popular within the Chinese fan base because the whole team is boosted.
Well, I mean, like, dude, this happens like a lot with like if you're a booster in like in China, it's just like it's not good. It's not good. But yeah, like I think that just it's a region that is really going to need some help. I think we'll probably see a lot more teams that. What I would like to see is teams kind of just like go mixed with like Koreans for like a little bit to make it like more competitive. Like we saw Rock was like pretty good. Unfortunately, the way the format didn't work out, they didn't get to
didn't throw hard enough.
Yeah, they didn't
honestly,
throw hard enough.
Rock deserved to go.
I think Rock would have been such a as much as I love Team CC and like the players that are on the team, I think they're good. It is no question in my GD mind that Rock would have been a better tournament like team in that tournament. Like it's not even a question. Like they would have been so much better.
At the end of the stage, I think Rock were also just a better team.
Yeah, they were.
I think Rock looked far more competitive versus OA than CC did.
Yep. Yeah, I think CC just doesn't. I mean, all the CC players are good, and like they have like basically that old CC roster, and like it's like Gaga I think is still very good. Like the thing about it is for me is that like it's really just once again until someone decides they want to like really step up their game. But the problem is that the best talent still is on this team. It's hoarded on this team. Like your DPS line is Leave Shia Prita, which is just insane, disgusting. It's fucking disgusting that you have like these three players. You have two of the best Tracer players to ever play Tracer in China, right? Prita, as much as like he got memed for like having that one stint in Overwatch League, when he was on Team Chaser before he got into Overwatch League, he was fucking unreal. Like he was insane at pretty much anything. Like, his Tracer was good, his Cassidy was good, like everything was so good. And they're just all on once again. Oh, and by the way, we have the second best tank to ever play with Liga. So we have Liga Gusha, fucking whatever. No one else can have a good tank in this region besides maybe Gaga, unless you. And then beyond like Gaga, there aren't that many good Chinese tanks anymore. Like there's not that many. Everything is being hoarded onto this once again team, and obviously, if they want to win as bad as they do internationally, you kind of have to do that. But at some point, like we're gonna have to bring in either the team, either the players that are like gonna like start to really arise throughout the fact that China now has Overwatch again. Either they're gonna step up, or there's got to be help brought in from elsewhere. Because beyond that, or you know, once again becomes decrepit and they can't play the game anymore. They get like arthritis because they're old, right? Those are the only three pathways I can see forward. That's the only three pathways I can see forward for the region. And I hope it's like a mix of all of them where it's like, you know, I mean, not that I hope once again gets old, but like they're going to be winning for a really long time if they keep this roster together.
All right, quick trivia for you. How old is Gushue?
24.
24. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Been around for quite a bit here.
That's Unk status in Overwatch, by the way.
Yeah, Unk status. Been around since 2018 World Cup.
No,
2017.
You know, this was his first championship win. This one, this OWCS China. He has not won a singular besides like show matches and stuff. He had not won a singular championship until this year.
Yeah, it's hard.
He was second in every other thing he played. Second in World Cup all the time, obviously, because I remember it's scarred in my brain.
What was the best international Chinese placement? He got second in the World Cup, and then Chengdu Hunters got second in stage 4 of 2021.
Second would be it, yeah. Second, probably.
Those were the two best, I'd say, Chinese roster placements.
China's been second in the World Cup twice, by the way.
What was the best placement for that Hangzhou Spark roster?
Yeah, because they lost to Korea, they lost to USA, and then they lost to.
China's got second 3 times.
Gusha has been at all 3 of them.
Oh,
no, I don't actually.
shit.
Yeah, no, he was at all of them. Yep. He
Damn.
didn't win. They didn't win Owl. They didn't win a stage in Owl because they lost to Shanghai that year. He's never won a. When he was in Contenders, he lost to Lucky Future Zenith both times.
Oh, dude.
He's never won a championship in like a like high tier, not like he's won show matches in like Pro Chaser and stuff like that, but like
that 3-2 win by Saudi Arabia is crazy to reflect on.
It's scarring for life.
I mean, it
Reverse
was
sweep.
essentially Twisted
Reverse
Minds,
sweep.
right? But
By
still,
the way.
It is one of the worst.
Unreal.
It is one of the
Yeah,
worst
'cause,
experiences I've ever seen. For
I
me,
just
because
look
like
back.
I just like I could not believe it. I thought I was like, okay, finally the crowd's here. They're gonna win. They were shit stomping Saudi Arabia for those first 2 matches. It was not close, and then they just like.
It was
completely
crazy.
fell apart.
Everyone were like stunned, legitimately like stunned.
yeah.
They couldn't believe when it happened. It was crazy.
Well, the crowd was super like I'd say like 90% of that crowd was like Spark fans, and then there was like
there were a lot of Spark fans.
By the way,
Spark fans.
Does 2022 Countdown Cup count? I guess it's kind of like playing, so I guess not. The Spark did win that, but does
who
that
played at Countdown?
count?
Who played at Countdown Cup?
But 2022
Countdown
Countdown
Cup.
Cup, I think, is just
Wasn't that a
quali-
play-in though? Wasn't it?
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah,
not a
no,
stage.
Yeah.
It's
no.
I don't count it. I don't count it. It doesn't fit my
No.
narrative, anyways.
Yeah, no, that
'Cause,
doesn't count.
Yeah, because I even look at Leave, and at least he won Premier Series.
Yeah,
you know,
Leave
he
won
won shit
Premier.
back in the day. He won
Yep.
like a bunch of stuff in like 2017,
Yeah, because that was like
2016.
Gush had never
So-
won up until
Wow.
this.
That's
So-
insane. I actually
yeah.
didn't even think about that.
I think about it. I thought about it.
2020
all the,
All-Stars.
I thought about it when they walked off stage actually at World
But
Cup, that he had never won. Because both of the times that I went to World Cup, I watched them lose to
Brick
the US.
movers? Sorry, what are we watching here? Sorry, I interrupted you, Kenobi. Brick movers against Yehong and students? Jesus. Talent take down Asia. Oh, okay. Sorry, what were you saying, Kenobi?
No, like I mean, I watched both those World Cups where, and I was like, oh my god, Gusha didn't win again. Like he's been second every
Yeah.
time. Every time I've watched him, he's gotten second in a final. Except
Stop
for this
watching
time.
him then.
Okay, well, actually, I mean, to be fair, I didn't watch this time and they won 4-0, so maybe
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Dude, you know what? I don't watch Liverpool games because I worry that they will lose if I watch because it happens so
Okay,
much.
that's insane.
I'm
You're
a
not
huge-
watching the
I'm a
team you
huge
like.
Liverpool fan. I have not watched a single game of them this season because I
will
can't
say-
bring myself to
What's
do
the
it.
point
will
of cheering
say-
for them then?
You will,
Because I love the team, but I
You-
know that when I watch, because I remember
are you
when I
doing?
like when I was
What are-
watching like back in the day.
Solomon
would
got
watch
to
it, they would
reinforce his result versus Australia. Anyway, no, I'm joking. I was gonna say, like, you could have definitely.
Yo! He beat the firefighters and plumbers. Let's go.
You could have definitely have watched OA versus CC because
And it
for
wouldn't have
OA
made a
to lose to
difference.
CC,
Yeah.
they would have to have played with their monitors off.
Yeah.
CC were that far behind. Like
It's just that no one's gonna beat this team until there's like outside help. Genuinely.
I said this last time. Right now, China to me reminds me of Japan last year, where OA are just VARL. VARL just like demolished everyone in stage one last year because the region was like kind of fresh and new. And now this is basically that again, where like the region is fresh and new again. But obviously you have, like in VARL's case, a team that's been around and playing. VARL was around and playing, even though there was nothing really to play in. They were still playing stuff.
Yeah.
Nintendo's Australia and whatnot. So
I don't want
Yeah,
to
they
watch
kinda
this.
like that.
Someone take this off my screen. This was not one of the finest talent takedown moments. Yes, I agree with you, AVRL. Yeah, VARL. We're gonna make the point that
It's just
No,
so
I
it's
get the
so
point you're
hard.
making.
It's
But-
gonna be so
but-
hard for this region to.
at the same time, though, no, not necessarily, because you look at Japan and they've like closed the gap a lot on VARL
Yeah.
since then. In fact, VARL are not even necessarily always the best team anymore. There's been a lot of catch up there. There's been imports. There's been the a level up from like domestic players as well. So with Overwatch kind of like being pushed, it's being heavily marketed in China,
Very heavily,
like
yeah.
like
There's
insanely
in subway
marketed.
stations, like there's like subway station like murals for
You know,
the event.
The streets are saying that Overwatch is by far still like a popular game,
popular,
definitely bigger
yeah.
than Marvel Rivals in China. And so
Yeah.
it's like a popular game there that will like gain interest again with something to play and something to play for, and a game that's like in a good state. I think
that
I think it wouldn't be a surprise to me if China starts leveling up in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think they just need. I think the way to do it is the way that Rock Esports is doing it, where it's like you bring in like half the roster as Korean, and I think that you like just to like a rising tide lifts all ships or whatever that quote is,
yeah.
right? Where it's like we need like Because if Little Sheep is the 4th best team in China, it's like it's a bit spooky, and like I'd rather have like, you know, I'd rather have some more Korean talent that like kind of just is there to inject like some extra life into it. For the most part, I think that it'll probably be once again, at least the rest of this year for sure. I think it's like not even a question that they're gonna win whatever tournament comes their way, unless some like serious collapse happens. But for the most part, there's really no reason for me to see, unless there are some like changes to rosters or anything like that, that this team ever really struggles that much during the rest of WCS China.
It's going to take a year or two. But I guess because I'm grandpa status now, I need to remind people of how it was on launch. But before China was actually good at Overwatch, and they got that second place at 2017 World Cup, like we were memeing about that region. Like that region was, they were dog. They were not good at all. We got invited to play there for APAC Premier in 2016. We beat Lunatic High, but like we went there and like, what were the Chinese teams cooking? Like,
did you play MY that year? It was probably MY and Vici were like the two teams that I think would have played.
Probably, I can't even remember. They were very forgettable. They were not good teams. But the point I'm trying to make is that like the Chinese teams were like so bad. Like it was either the Korean teams and it was also Western teams. And then around that 2017 World Cup run, that's when actually like the Chinese region like really became good. And then into the 2018 World Cup qualifiers, you know, that's when they had
that was Leave,
it was,
I think. That was
Eileen, Leave,
Shy.
Was Shy? No, Shy was not around then. Like, was Shy there?
Shy was
in Bangkok. Yeah, it was Crystal, Shy, Leave, Late Young, Gushue, Sky, Yveltal.
Oh, I forgot. Okay. I forgot. Crystal.
But at that point, like
that's Bangkok.
China
was
like a sick region. And so it took like 2 years, I'd say, or like a year and a half for like China to like really get going. But like once they got going, you're like, holy shit, like you gotta put some respect on China. And then obviously 2018 Shanghai Dragons, there was
killed all of them.
Shanghai Dragons killed all. Where that they were not the best team in China.
But it's because they picked the wrong team. They picked the wrong team to go there.
There's an actual word for what happens when you get your best buddy to bring in your boys, and that's kind of what happened. So the best Chinese players did actually not compete in 2018 Overwatch League, but then 2019, 2020 they got sold, and you quickly saw China become a really competitive region. So we've seen this from China before, where it's a slow start, but then give them a year or two, and they really get going in the international stage. So, yeah, bro.
That's so PM.
I just want to drive the point home. Come on, man. That's good content. It's just good content. It's just good content.
Oh.
Good times, dude. It's good times.
Reinforce, tell us for the audio listeners, what are we to just pontificate about?
What was it like? What was it like?
What was what?
Losing to China. Losing to China.
We didn't really know what to expect, but I
don't think anyone did this year.
To
be fair,
we thought it probably was between us, Australia, and China, and then we played China in the first match, and we're like, oh shit, China's the best team in the group, and then
shit.
And then it was kind of like, oh god, now
we gotta beat Australia.
We have to win literally every single match.
You know why? I can tell you why. It's because Manadin's making too many jokes in the backline. That's why you lost. Too many shenanigans and tomfoolery.
Too much
jokes. Spitting one-liners in the background. Knock jokes and all that. Pull my finger.
Oh my god. Now it's funny in hindsight. I look at this roster and I'm like, oh shit, we were in for a bad time.
Oh, I forgot Sky was on this team. This wasn't even like this is like. They didn't even have their best flex supports playing this time.
I don't even feel bad losing this match in hindsight. I'm like, holy fuck. They got Leave, Shy, Gushue, Veltal. There's no way. Yeah. Yep.
A good ass team.
In hindsight, you're like, holy fuck. That's a good ass team, dude. Damn.
How destroyed did we get? What was the end result of this match? Like 3-1?
You won a map. It was 3-1. Yeah, you won a map.
Hey, okay. I see you, Johnny. Let's go. One map off of probably the second best tank to ever play.
Brutal. What are you looking for, someone? Scrolling through here.
We gotta see some reinforced gameplay.
Yeah, I'll have you know, I played Winston into whatever they were like. So like here, like they're just playing Rhyme Bastion. Like no one was fucking playing Bastion here.
Dude, I
like,
fucking forgot. I forgot we had on fire fucking things in the UI at one point.
I forgot we were playing goats. Holy shit!
Yeah, we were.
So you're telling me
it was actually
China...
a good meta because I remember Denmark rocked up and they were like, "We're gonna play triple support Cass," and then Australia were like, "We're gonna play dive," and then we're like, "We're gonna play goats," and so it was like 3.
Did China win goats? Did China win goats? What?
Bastion goats. Bastion goats.
China does not sound like a good goats team.
This is probably where they lost, I imagine, right? Like
this might be the map you won, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is surely the map China lost.
I could talk about this for a long time, but
you did. You guys won King's Row.
You guys won King's Row. So
you lost every map, but you won. This is the map you won because you forced the Goatsmere and you beat the Bastion.
They're playing Bastion.
You beat the Bastion. You did it.
Bastion.
Mannered and locked in. Stop telling jokes. You beat the Bastion.
Yeah, we.
Yeah, what joke did? What...
we had a couple of issues finding our style going into the tournament. So practice didn't go. Wasn't flawless.
Big shatter.
Well, you know they popped the trans and that's what she wrote. Oh boy. Anyway, yeah, that was fun, guys. Fun.
Time.
Yeah. Oh, here's the winning moment. Am I standing up? No.
No, it's halftime.
Chilling.
I think
no pop off.
I think that at that point they're probably like, oh fuck, we gotta go to like a map where we can't force goats. What do we do?
That was tough.
Where do you guys rate? I'm gonna flip the script. Where do you guys rate once again? Because I'm very like timid on this team going into that tournament because they've literally been playing 4-year-olds in a sandbox for the most part, right? Like they're not playing like the best.
It's really interesting.
And it needs to be like a very good meta for that team. Like if Sojourn's meta, then I feel like I give them a chance all the time because you can just have Shy play that and Shy's gonna 1v9 and like it's gonna be fine because he's probably a top 3. He's probably a top 3 Sojourn to ever touch the keyboard. So I don't know. I don't know what I feel like that team. I'm just ready to be let down and not get myself hurt. That's really all it is.
The dark horse. It's like you probably aren't favored, but you could see them, you know, taking out a few teams.
Like if they lose to NA, I might not be able to tweet.
I think the way I said it last week is like if you don't respect and prepare for once again, you're going to have a bad time. Yeah. Oh my god, you're going to find out real quick that they're a very formidable team. And so I actually put a lot of respect on once again. Could they go 0-2? Could they bomb out a tournament? Sure, but like I have a lot of respect for once again. I will not be sleeping on once again.
Okay,
I wouldn't want to play once again. I think I'd rather play like other EMEA team.
Baby, let's go.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do we know who they would potentially be up against? No, but in the lower, if they lose to VP, who do they play?
I don't know. I don't know if they reseed.
No, I mean they only flip in the second round of the loser bracket. I mean that's how they always do it these days. So like the first round of losers, you just drop straight down, but then in the second round they flip it, right? The second round winner bracket teams they drop down to the different.
So they play the loser of Falcons and all.
Do they?
If they both just go straight down, right? Or
yeah, so all these teams will drop straight down. In their,
they play.
They play the loser on the same side of their bracket, or a loser from the other side.
Yeah, they play the loser on the same side of their bracket.
Okay, so they play OWCS.
This is how all their brackets work these days.
I don't see them losing to OWCS. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Lab
Maybe they
Shy?
lose to V. No, I think Shy is one of the top Soldiers of all time. Lab is good, but Shy is on a different level of Soldier. That guy is. I just watched him on Soldier. I'm like, he's still got it. He's still got it. Regardless of how good the enemy team is, his aim is flawless.
Dude, I'm convinced that character was made for him. Like, whenever I watch him play, I'm like, this character was like made for him and proper because I gotta give props to the OG. But like, those are like the two where I'm just like.
And then, let's say they beat Al-Qadsia and they move to the lower bracket quarterfinals. Hypothetically, if we just make some simple assumptions here, hypothetically, they'd either play Space Station or Nightmare. Which I think both would kind of be good matchups for, once again. Because like if they could just play a team with, Kellan playing Winston, Kaffa playing Winston, you know, you pit Leave in a Tracer duel against Zero or Sugar Free. Like, I think they would enjoy that matchup.
Team CC's gonna
So-
get
You know what
break
else?
speed off of them.
What else?
What else? Let me paint this picture for you.
Oh, okay.
If once again beat Virtus Pro, they'll go up against Falcons, which they also beat. Because obviously Falcons just lose to once again because, you know, they can't help but mirror the dive and always lose to China. As proven is it 5 times? Is it 10 times in a row now, guys?
Yeah.
The Falcons, this Falcons core just loves to mirror once again and lose in the mirror. They love to do that shit. They love losing to Winston mirror, by the way. Just saying.
Crazy?
They did it in the World Cup. Atlanta Falcons, or Atlanta Reign, fucking Boston.
They did it at EWC. Falcons lost to OA and EWC. Brilliant loss. Love that one.
Okay,
So yes, the OA beat VP, then they beat Falcons, then they're in the upper bracket final. Holy shit. Once again, China in the top 4, fellas.
And they play Crazy Raccoons.
low key, I could see it. Yeah, I
And they get
remember.
smacked on
Didn't they
by
play
Crazy.
Atlanta Rain on like Blizzard World and then lip lock the soldier and you were like, oh my god, they're panicking. Like, what are they doing? Like
Yeah.
they picked soldier. It's
Well, like,
that. It was
fucking,
so
I don't
that
get it. That Atlanta Reign series, they were up 2-0, and then Hangzhou was like, fuck it, we ball. We're playing dive. And then Atlanta's like, sure, that sounds like a great time.
Oh my god.
I handshake you, sir. Oh wait, we got reverse swept. Oh wait, we're mental boomed out of the tournament.
But it's also crazy because first of all, you don't play like the optimal composition. Like that would be the best meta at the time, if you will, to beat once again. You match the dive. And then second of all, it's still just freaking amazing in its own right that China wins those matchups.
Yep.
And has done so now a few times where they beat out those teams in dive. Because that is just unimaginable. That is like unfathomable for all the Western teams. And China just like, yeah, we just beat Korea in
Avril's
dive.
like, yeah, they love that shit.
It's crazy.
They love that shit. They love
They're
losing to
addicted.
China on dive.
They love it. They absolutely love it.
It's gonna be fun. I can't wait.
You're
It's
gonna
to be
see
so fun.
Han Binston versus Gushro in a Winston mirror. It's gonna be the best.
Dude!
It's gonna be the best.
It's not like you can pick Maug anymore. Like, good luck. Like, have fun.
It's gonna
you
be
know?
so good, man. My
I
popcorn will be
wait
ready,
for-
dude.
I can't
My
wait. for the
popcorn will be
Hanbin-
so ready for that game.
Hanbin Winston versus Gusha. Oh no.
Oh my god. Last thing here before we wrap up China. We're gonna make a bracket. I didn't even. Yeah, let's do a bracket.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, let's just.
So put once again all the way to the
we're
top
doing,
4.
Sorry, we're saving the bracket. I'm sorry. Okay, so we can visualize it, yeah, but we're doing the actual bracket on Monday. So we'll save the
Okay.
whole bracket, but we can hypothetically, like, what is the path for once again?
Hypothetically.
Let's make the path for once again. So
they win. I mean, there's no path to a championship because they're gonna lose to Crazy Raccoons. There's like no. I don't think.
So do Falcons beating LKC and then once again beating Falcons. Once again
Nightmare's
beats
gonna
Falcons.
beat the shit out of Team CC.
And then doesn't matter who wins against who in Crazy Raccoon. Yep, and then that. Yep.
oh, come on,
Dude,
come on, come
if-
on.
No. Hey, here's the thing. If this happens, if the bracket stops here, I guarantee you, once again, loses that grand final. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. They need to go through lower to win. I am convinced
True.
of this.
So yeah, so make Crazy Raccoon win the upper bracket game.
Yeah.
Yep. They will anyway. I already know Crazy Raccoon's
Oh,
gonna
come
win
on.
that game.
I mean, look, they beat Falcons, sure. But the fact they're going to beat Falcons, Crazy Raccoon back to back, like that is just.
Once again, breaks. The only way that they can break this second place curse is if they go through lower, and then they revert. They like beat Crazy Raccoons in grand final. It's the only way we can cleanse the timeline for Chinese Overwatch. It has to be this.
They're
way.
gonna do it in a home ground.
Yes, on
in
home
Hangzhou.
ground. I'm telling you, dude, if they go through upper bracket, they will lose that grand final. I
That
swear
place
to
would
you.
go nuts. Like they
Chinese-
would be heroes.
A Chinese
Dude, we're
fan is gonna
dude,
they're gonna run on stage and unplug the keyboard and mics from Crazy Raccoon's computers, unplug their monitors in middle of the game, and then for some reason we don't pause the game, and then once again just win.
Is it like in America when a team wins on a major American sport, they get to go to the Oval Office and like meet.
Yeah,
the
you
president?
go to yeah. Oh,
Does
yeah,
once
they-
again get to meet Xi
yeah.
Jinping
They
and
get
it's like,
to
yo,
meet-
we finally did it. We beat the Korean teams.
To be fair, if they do win this tournament, which is very, I guess there's a likelihood, obviously, because they're the dark horse. It would be the best thing that could happen to Chinese Overwatch if they end up winning this tournament.
I would be
Without
bonkers.
a doubt in my mind. That
It would
would
be like the
accelerate.
golden age of Chinese Overwatch.
It would accelerate entirely, like the conversation we had about like them having to wait like a year or two. it would accelerate that by like at least a year. I feel like if they were to win this tournament,
It would be nuts.
It would actually be the best possible outcome for the Chinese region. It actually would be.
Honestly, is this the
100%.
best outcome for Overwatch Esports?
For Overwatch Esports, it would absolutely be the best outcome.
Root for once again a vote
It would
for
absolutely
Overwatch
be the
Esports.
best outcome. It would absolutely be the best outcome.
They're like, let's bring it back. Let's have more tournaments in China. Yeah, let's go. This is awesome. This is great. Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Last thing I wanted to ask here. Team CC. I think everyone's collectively pretty down on this team. We all recognize it's going to be tough. Here's what I'd ask though, just succinctly, but not need to go down a rabbit hole. What is kind of like the Steelman argument for Team CC? Like, what do they have going for themselves that could translate to?
I mean, Ball got super nerfed, which I was really sad about because Gaga's really good at. Like, I think Gaga is actually probably one of the best balls you've ever seen. Gaga like would have been someone if Ball was like still like. I think that nerf hit pretty hard to Hammond, and I don't think it's like really that good anymore. The backline's really good. The team has been together for a very long time with that Team CC core. Like, it's possible. I mean, it's obviously not going to look that great against once again because they're just like it's baby brother and big brother, and it's never going to not be that. But like Gaga's still like fine on Winston. I think
who needs to play really well if they're going to go for
the DPS have to play like way better.
That's Formula 1. Copyright. No.
Did Piastri win? Okay. Anyway, the DPS have to play better. I think everywhere else, like the supports and the tank are like fine. The DPS, I think, have to like step up a little bit on the.
Let me paint the picture for you. What's going to happen? This is the steel man for Team CC. This is how they're going to win. Super Richard's going to get his little cup out again.
I knew it
between maps, and then Pineapple's going to lock in the Alari, and that's how they're going to win.
Oh my god!
That's the only way they're going to win.
Wait, did you say Pineapple's gonna look the Alari?
That's what he played when he was on
Spark.
The Spark, yeah. He was the Alari player.
Oh my god.
Dedicated Alari player. He was the Magenta thing. Dedicated Alari player.
I carved out that part of my brain.
I was so confused as to why they signed him, and I was like, oh, okay.
They needed an Alari player, clearly. No one else could play Alari, so
like Insane and Kaneki, like when you look at the roster, when you look at Insane and Kaneki, and then you look at like Gaga, Super Rich, and Faraway, who have been like at the top of the Chinese game for a while, it's like a distinct like drop off between those two. So the DPS got to step it up if they want to have a chance to play against Nightmare.
Yeah. All right, I can't wait. We're only a week away, less than a week away.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so exciting.
It's happening.
Yeah.
What's the time difference between PT and China? Reinforced. You said Pacific is not a good time zone.
I don't even know.
What time is it?
I know
basically when China goes live. What time is it for you locally?
It's 12-hour difference for East Coast.
I think it's like 10 p.m. The show goes live.
For me, it's a 12-hour difference.
If you're a degenerate, that's a perfect time.
I am not a degenerate though.
See, I wish I could do that though, because I'm at the point where it's like I need the 12 hours to flip completely to work for me in East Coast. Like, it's awful.
Yeah, I mean, I've just given up on watching like Korea.
I have to wait until like 6 or 5 a.m. for when it starts for me.
I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. I can't put my body on the line. I just like
when I was like 25 or like 24, and I was like I didn't give a shit anymore. I was like, hell yeah, I could stay up and watch China for 4 hours and cast it. Now it's just like my body's like, you gotta sleep, bro.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I wish I could co-stream with AVRL, but I'm like, no. I've just accepted that this is the way things are. I will not be able to watch those games.
It's the same reason why I can't usually do NA or EU.
OWC watches those games live.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know how she does it. Like, you go to bed at like I asked her just like, hey, do you wanna come on Plat Chat? She's like, no, I go to bed at like 6. And I'm like, what? Like,
6 p.m.
Yeah. I'm like, that's.
Oh. Well, she's also I think she's on the East Coast. She's watching it from she's watching it from my time zone.
That's passion. That's dedication. I'm washed. I don't have it anymore. I'm like, I gotta get my beauty sleep at 10:30 p.m. It's been a lovely episode, guys. I had so much fun here. Episode 261. As always, Bren's player of the week. Who are we giving it to? And we got quite a lot of gameplay to pick here from. You go either a Chinese team if you really want to. It's really fun.
I'm giving it to Amplify. No, I don't know.
I'm giving it to Willis. That's for me. Willis gets mine for sure.
Love it. Yeah. Give it to Willis Hazard. Here
we
go. AVRL is just like, yeah, sure, let's go with it.
I don't have a better one. I don't have a better one. So
okay.
There was no funny moment on the.
Can you give us like a
Soop
preview from Soop Cup? Who's going to be a player of the week? That's like if you could see into the future.
It's gonna be my boy Proud again. It's gonna be my boy Proud. He's gonna lock in. He's gonna prove that he's aiming for that #1 hit scan. You know, in the whole world right now.
One day, probably the best hit scan player in the world. All right. This has been another episode of Plat Chat. We'll see you early again next week to preview Champions Clash. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to all our members. Make sure, if you want to support the podcast, become a member here on YouTube, and you'll get the opportunity to ask a question going into the Champions Clash. So stay tuned for that. As always, thank you so much, AVRL. Thank you so much, Kenobi. Thank you, the GOAT, Solomon, for producing another episode of Plat Chat here. And we'll see you early next week. Take care, everybody.